Yes. What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday night. It's 10 o'clock Central Time. Your Uncle Weezy's got the smoking jacket on here. So you know what that means. It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We got a lot of work to do this week, breaking down 14 fights on this UFC Vegas 86 card that's going to be headlined by Jack Hermansson versus Body Bags Pyfer. Promises to be a really good main event here with a very hot young fighter in Pyfer getting the step up in competition that he so richly deserves at this point in his career against a guy and gentleman, Jack Hermansson, who is well-rounded, well-tested, and has fought just about everybody that the division has to offer. He's a phenomenal grappler, so it's going to be a great test for Joe. But I'm looking forward to that main event. I'm looking forward to that co-main, which promises to be a great fight between Dan 50K Ige and the guy who just loves big, fat booties, Andre Fili. So that's a good one, too. And there are some interesting stylistic matchups on this fight. There are some debuting fighters in Carlos Prates, Hyder, Amil. We got the second fight of Darrius Flowers on this card. And then somebody else that I'm thinking of. Who is it? Bogdan Guskov is going to be fun. And who else is making their debut? Oh, yeah, Bolaji Oki. Who now has a new opponent because Damir Hadzovic evidently had some kind of visa issues, I guess, coming from Denmark. I don't know. Bizarre that you could screw up getting a visa for a fight that was planned 6 weeks in advance, but it is what it is. And now he's going to get a short notice opponent here, a local fighter from Vegas that I know literally nothing about. But we're going to break down 13 of these 14 fights due to me not knowing what the hell is going on with this new guy who just got added a couple of hours before showtime while I was still finishing up writing up these fights. Coming off a rough week, not going to lie to you guys, got my shit pushed in on Saturday, and that was thanks to a really bad read by me. I had Thomas Peterson. I had 3.5 units on the money line. I thought he was going to take down Jamal Pogues and finish him. And I also had 1.15 units on the fight doesn't go to decision for that bet. So, you know, I kind of figured like even if Peterson did gas out, Pogues might be able to get him late. I thought Peterson might be able to get him early. Wound up because Pogues won by decision, losing 4.65 units on the very first fight of the night. Wound up losing 5.1 units on the night. Really rough night. First 6 fights of the night, I got all of my picks wrong. And you know, the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week at in Roman Dolidze just didn't get the job done. I thought he'd be the more powerful guy. I thought he'd probably have most of the success in the grappling or be the guy that would be most likely to finish the fight on the mat. None of those things happened, but the winning bet was Charlie Radke's money line at plus 180. Had a 1 unit bet on that. Had a 1 unit bet on Blake Builder's money line at plus 140. That line got blown out overnight. I don't know if Blake was injured, but there was some really suspicious line movement. It went from like plus 115, plus 120 on Friday morning to like plus 180 by the time the fight started. So I'm not sure what kind of information people had, but Jun Yong Lee looked phenomenal and Blake Builder had his worst performance so far. So, and then the big loss on Thomas Peterson's money line, the 1.15 unit loss on the fight doesn't go to decision for the Peterson-Pogues fight. We had violence in the Muradov-Kisraev fight that wound up being a no contest. Pete Rodriguez by KO round 1, lost a quarter unit on that. Stolyarenko sub round 1, lost a half unit on that. Natalia Silva to win in round 3, lost a quarter unit on that. And Blake Builder to win in round 3, lost a quarter unit on that. Down 5.1 units. Got to turn it around this week. Kind of staying to a couple of spots that stuck out, hitting them big this week. Gonna lay off a little bit of the sprinkles that haven't been hitting lately. But I'm really looking forward to breaking down these 14 fights with you guys because we got a lot of work to do. And there's a lot of debuting fighters. And these debuting fighters in Oki, in Prates, are really exciting guys. And Hyder and Amil, I loved watching the way that this guy fights as well. So I think we got 3 really young, well, not young in Hyder and Amil's case, but we got some good prospects who are going to be making their debut on Saturday, who I think are going to be really fun fighters to watch going forward in the UFC here. Let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat. I have got my guy Dick's Insider in the room here saying, Prophet Weezy, I had a revelation today. This main event ends in an injury like it happened with Joe on Dana White's Contender Series. Hermansson does very unorthodox trips and sweeps. Joe's going to get hurt again in a transition. I'm sprinkling Hermansson TKOs slowly based on the fact that Joe has been very injury prone throughout his career. He openly admits it in multiple interviews. Obviously not probable, but definitely worth a sprinkle. Yeah, I mean, Joe has had problems in that reconstructed elbow. He's been finished in all of his losses, but I think that's only 2 losses. So, and yeah, he has battled injuries like so many fighters do. This is the hurt business, and a lot of these guys battle serious injuries for most of their career. And when you are healthy, you got to make hay while the sun shines, because there's not a lot of opportunities to make money in this sport. You get old quick. The miles add up quick. And when you start going downhill, it's a fast road downhill, a lot faster downhill than it was uphill. So yeah, it's a rough sport, and we could see anything happen in any fight. This is something that nothing surprises me anymore. Handicapping MMA. I mean, this is a wild sport, and you got to be prepared for everything. And that's why you got to do all of the research, and why you have to try to put together all of the possible ways that a fight can go to determine when you match those probabilities up against the implied probabilities of the betting lines, when you're going to find those bets that stick out and will give you a nice ROI over the long term. We got Bob checking in from the Netherlands saying, what's up, Big Weez, man? He's saying, let's stack them this week, my people. He's got the Marcos money line at -187. He's got Loma at -200. He's got his boy Armen Petrosyan at +114. 50K Ige at -142. Max Payne Griffin at +187. Man, you're beating a bunch of line movement, my man. Prates round 1 or 2. Guskov round 1 or 2. And the parlay pieces are Hobo Cop, Bolaji Oki, and Ihor Peterior. Under 2.5 rounds. Yeah, I love that. I love that bet. Flowers under 2.5 as well. I'm big on that as well. I posted a Twitter poll. Let me see. Do I have my Twitter up? Let me get that up for you guys here real quick. I posted a poll and said that there were 4 openers between -300 and -400 this week, and it was the Pyfer Hermansson fight at -350, the Johnson Flowers fight at -325, the Giles Prates fight at -325, and the Pauga Guskov fight. And I said, if you had to max bet one of those fight doesn't go to decisions, which one would it be? And you guys chose Pyfer Hermansson. 50% of the 424 votes, so 212 votes went to Pyfer versus Hermansson. The next highest was at about 25% was Johnson Flowers. The next highest after that was Pauga Guskov at 15%, then Giles Prates at 10.6%. So the bookies have got at least 5 fights this week, if you count the Ihor Peterior fight, priced at over 75% implied to finish inside the distance. So we're going to see a lot of violence this week, and I like all those spots, Bob. I think those are nice spots. We got my guy Vic DeJesus in the room, and he is saying, oi, yes, what's up, Weezy and Chap? And getting my ass kicked lately. Probably taking a little break from this card betting-wise and getting back on it for the pay-per-view next week. Nothing wrong with that, dude. I'm a content creator, so I have to be here, but you guys who are at home who don't make content, who are people aren't relying on you for YouTube shows, you get to take off events whenever you want. And that's a nice thing to be able to do, to kind of step back for a minute, to take a look at your recent performance, take a look at what you were thinking before you made the bets that you made and how they turned out, and what you can learn from what you did right and what you did wrong. And that's something that us content creators have to create time in order to do that self-reflection, in order to go over our past performance so that we can learn from our mistakes, not make them again, and really kind of go forward making money. So I think that's a great thing to do. I would probably do something like that this week if I wasn't a content creator, because this card's tough. I mean, you're going to have to lay juice on some impressive prospects, but we all know how touchy those debut performances can be. I mean, you could create this really long list of fighters that are phenomenal UFC fighters who completely had pants shitting performances in their UFC debuts. And if you just went by their debuts, you'd be like, oh, this person sucks. So sometimes you got to be willing to, forgive that debut performance when they didn't perform to expectations, and try to, take advantage of some recency bias. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting card. You kind of got to get a little bit aggressive this week. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you got to get aggressive, but we want to really take what the bookies give us and really kind of, bet big the spots that stick out like a sore thumb. And I've identified a couple this week, interested to run them by you guys. We got Teo Paku saying Weezy live. Yes. What's up, man? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got the inimitable Lou Betya in the room saying all the units this weekend, Weezy. Do it for you. Do it for Phil Tits. Do it for Jiz Hornkamp. And do it for Jacques Tits, the Mount Rushmore of awesomeness. That will be the next federal project here in the United States that brings the people of this country together in a very tough election year. I think it would be creating a Mount Rushmore of Phil Tits, Jiz Hornkamp, Jacques Tits, and then of course your Uncle Weezy right in the middle with a big smile on my face, with eating a plate of flapjacks. That's what I want to see. We got Mighty Pro in the room saying Jack on his way to decision before getting the takedown, and Dolidze's 10,000 IQ submission. Yes. Yeah, I know. That was wild, man. We had that what do you call it? That kick in the face too, and I was like, there's no way Roman's taking the easy way out. That dude is just too much of a man to be like, oh, I quit, I can't see. And I was hoping, because I had the finish only prop for Dolidze, that he would take the easy way out. It would have cashed me a bet, but good, big ups for Dolidze for being a man, continuing with the fight, a fight that was not going his way at the time. We got Sigma Trillionaire Gus saying, Weezy, I saw Hadzovic pulled out, and the first thing I thought was, oh no, our Uncle Weezy has chalk laid on Michael Johnson. And I did it, you guys. I said to myself early in the week, now I'm going to break down the Johnson fight for you guys later on, obviously, but I said, I like Johnson this week. I'm betting him, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to parlay him with something that I really like, so that if it goes tits up, and we all know that Michael Johnson bets go tits up regularly. It happens all the time. So if it goes tits up, I could tell myself for my own mental health issues after I lose that bet that, hey, you parlayed it and you didn't lay juice on Johnson, so now it doesn't hurt. Well, I parlayed him with Bolaji Oki, whose fight was now canceled, and now I have a juice bet laid on Michael Johnson. It's been that kind of year already, but I'm hoping we turn it around this week, ladies and gentlemen. We got Just Win, baby. We got Rich in the room saying, come on, babe, please let me just put the tip in. And he's got the purple face there. Yeah, man. It works sometimes. I remember back in my college days, sometimes you had to be just the slightest bit persuasive, and you wanted to talk somebody into something, just the tip. It's a game that sometimes leads to even better games, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get it this week. We got King Bicky in the room saying War Pyfer. We got Remdog in the room with the flapjacks in the eyes. What's up, dude? We got Teratea saying sure all. We got my guy Zero Mieto in the room saying oi. We got Jay Boog saying Uncle Wheeze. We got Prince of Mischief in the room saying it's been a minute. Oi! We've got M.A. Liren in the room saying, Weezus, it's great to catch you live again. Thank you for your work. Thank you for hanging out, M.A. We got Prince of Mischief saying ass shaving prediction. Devin Clark is his prediction for your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Can't wait to get to that. We got Tommy Unders in the room. Been a minute since I've seen Tommy Unders in here saying, what's up, Unc? Best of luck this week. Same to you, brother. EQ in the room saying, oi, yes, back in action. Let's go. Teratea saying, I had a bad night too, Weezy. 6-6-1. My worst card since September last year, down 0.5 units. Max bet Kisraev. Yeah, so you pretty much had a max. You got your refund back. You got your money back. And, you know, if eye pokes were legal, Kisraev would have kicked his ass. I think he pulled the fucking Three Stooges where he got both eyes at the same time. Boy, that was a great eye poke. And I mean, if we did celebrate eye pokes in that way, I think that would have been a Hall of Fame performance there by Kisraev. But yeah, we hadn't seen Kisraev in about 2 years. He fought for 11 seconds, wound up being a no contest. See you again in 2026. Elias Cobb Kisraev. We got the Golden Octagon in the room saying, oi, yes, I caught the beginning this week, Weezy. Let's go, man. We got Gray in the room saying went 6 of 6 last card, 0 loss. So that's good, man. Hey, if you can get half the cards right, half of them wrong, but still be plus units or at least break even, that's what's best at the end of the day, is not losing. Golden Octagon saying I couldn't pick my nose this past weekend. Dude, I started off 0-6, and I was like, dude, what the hell is going on, man? I've never not seen Dixon on an MMA live chat. Dude, Dixon is a supporter of the entire MMA YouTube content creator like circle of people that we have here. So we appreciate you. Matt R., we appreciate you. Dixon, we appreciate you. Brava 2001 saying, not going to lie, really feeling the underdog in Marcos versus Aori Qileng. Hopefully we have a good one this week, Weezy. Let's get it, my man. We got Matt saying, Weezy, the We Want Picks guy, Angelo, was making fun of your spreadsheets. Yeah, that guy talks a lot of people's shit. But you know what? You want to know a little secret, Matt? That guy, Angelo, called me up months ago and asked me to put my spreadsheets on his website. So that guy can go fuck himself. He talks a lot of shit about other people. But you know what? I don't really care about that. We're here to make money this week, and wait until you see the new improved spreadsheets your Uncle Weezy's got for you. We got Easy Bets in the room saying, what it do, Unc? Looking forward to this one. We got Teron Brown saying, what up, Uncle? We got Real Fight Picks saying, Weezy, not trying to throw anything in your face, but I did try to warn you about Peterson. I'm still here for the tip or the whole thing. Dude, I was kind of on an island with Peterson. And don't get me wrong, when you start doing this for long enough, you know what the paths to victory are for the opponent. You know what the paths to victory are for the person that you're picking against. I was picking against Pogues. I said, if he keeps this fight standing and he stops the takedowns, he's probably going to win a 60-40 fight. And that's basically what he won. There are some people who thought, you know, Peterson won one of those last 2 rounds and that he stole the first with the late takedown and the ground and pound. It was a close fight. But I didn't foresee Thomas Peterson only getting 1 takedown. And in the second round, he had him treetopped. He had that leg up above his head. He gets that takedown. He probably wins that round, and he probably wins the fight. It comes down to sometimes those small moments. And in those small moments, when Peterson was going for those takedowns, Pogues stopped him. Pogues outboxed him at distance. He looked as sharp as he ever has from distance. And Peterson didn't pressure enough, and he didn't wrestle enough. And when he did wrestle, he didn't do it successfully. That's how that was Pogues' paths to victory. I knew that if that's what happened, I was probably going to be sunk on that bet, but I did not see Peterson not getting the takedowns. We got Teron Brown in the room saying, for some reason, I'm never excited for these UFC Apex cards, but I get super excited for the pay-per-view cards. So yeah, it's easy to do that, my man. These Apex cards, sometimes they mail it in. Jeff Bruno saying lost 3 units on Stoliarenko money line, but won 6 units on Carolina round 3 TKO. Hedging has saved me many times. Yeah, it can be a great way to limit your risk and to really kind of put a cap on, you know, what your winnings will be. But if you have like a 3-leg parlay and you're that last leg is fat, you can hedge out for guaranteed wins. So hedging is a good long-term strategy for conservative gamblers. Last week's card was awful. It was a bad one for me. We got Jay's MMA saying, I'm out and about. What's up, Uncle Weezy? Good to have you hanging out in here. We got Tayratea saying, always know the vibe. That's right. And we got Obnoxious saying, yes. Should have bet 2 units on Imavov by decision. Roman is a meme. I didn't even bet his money line. Yeah, I didn't bet his money line either, but I had the finish only prop. And wasn't a great bet. I mean, like, Imavov was this close to finishing Dolidze in round number 1. But, you know, Delize is an extremely tough dude, extremely durable. Who are my 3 most confident fighters on this card? You're going to have to stay tuned for that, man. We got a lot of you guys in here. MMA Jesus. We got MMA. We got Just Win, baby, with the skull. Sup, Weezy, says Matthew. Ben saying, thanks for all you do, man. We got Cuban Assassin saying, we want picks, guys. Look like they stream on a Nintendo Game Boy. Don't fuck with my Uncle Weezy. We got Good Aid from Ottawa, says Fender Jazz. We got Matt R saying, oh, that's some juicy information. We got if Angelo wants war, he will get it. Italian turd. Yeah, dude. They look. I mean, if you look at Brady's spreadsheets, the first spreadsheets that those guys started putting out, like when I talked to Brady, he was like, holy shit, they stole my fucking spreadsheet. And then they called me up asking me, hey, you know, maybe you can post your shit here, shut down your Patreon and put your stats here. You know, and I politely told them, no, I'm not interested in doing that. I've spent all this time building up this community and providing this service to people who are do-it-yourself gamblers. But believe it or not, some people don't give a fuck what I pick, and I don't care about that. I provide information. I provide access to information that can help make people who want to learn to do something better. You know, picks are just picks. People get hot, people get cold. But you'll get my picks when you join the Patreon, but what you really get access to are the well-curated stats that I've spent so long accumulating. And now with the analytics that are available in some of these lesser used markets like Prize Picks and Underdog for fantasy score, takedowns, and significant strikes, you're going to see that these spreadsheets that other people might make fun of provide some incredible information and can give you a compass on how to find inefficiencies in the market that you can take advantage of. We got Teratea saying those we want picks guys put other people down to try to get people to buy their memberships. Trash human beings. Yeah, and that's the thing that, I mean, like I've watched their stuff before after they contacted me and asked me to put my stats on their site. And then I realized, like, holy shit, they just talk shit about everybody else. Like they're the only game in town, you know. And he actually told me, you know what Angelo told me? He told me, you should come over and put your stuff on our website, because if you don't, we're going to put everybody else out of business. We're going to create an environment where nobody can compete with us. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, go fuck yourself. You really think you're putting out of business everybody who works so hard on YouTube because you got a few people behind you that help you with really good production on your videos and put together a really nice website for $10 a month? At the end of the day, it's still picks that nobody really gives a shit about. Nobody gives a shit about what those guys think. There's guys who have been doing it for 10 years longer that have tracked betting records. A lot of them right here in our chat right now. Guys like Rich, Just Win Baby. I mean, look at that guy's fucking track betting record going back 6 years. What do Angelo and JT have for track betting records? They got a show that's been on for about a year at this point. No track betting records. So yeah, man. But I can't believe I'm talking about those clowns on my show. Peterson was robbed. I was robbed by making a bad bet on Peterson, man. Yeah, that was just a bad pick by me. I don't know about that. I think Peterson only had one type of takedown. He had no plan B exactly. Looking forward to 299 to 300. Me too. We want picks as sham, peddling AI picks. I got cooked on the last card too, and I think this week is the week to keep it light. I agree with you, Jazz, that I'm feeling the same way. Hope you're good, Weezy. Things are well, man. The track betting record this year so far, ass, but everything else, really good in life. Excited to hear who your ass shaving fighter is. Have you ever had a perfect night with your picks? You are really good. I don't think. Oh God, I'd have to look on SureDog, dude. Getting 13 picks right is, I don't know if I've ever done it, to be honest with you. I'd have to look. Real Fight Pick saying your spreadsheets are exceptional. I appreciate them. Angelo is a ShamWow salesman of the capper space. They don't even keep their results up on their website. Uncle Weezy is one of one. Hating on Weezy makes you a loser. Dude, I appreciate you guys, but let's get to work. Like I always do, let me just show you. Like I say, man, it's about hard work, and I don't have time to put other people down when I'm writing up 30 pages of notes for you guys. Now it's 30 pages because I'm old and my eyes don't work and I have to type in 14-point font, but you know, like I have all 14 fights written up here from top to bottom, all the advantages of every fighter. I've researched every one. I've taped every one. I've made a pick, and I've identified the spots where I think we could find some betting lines that are off. So I'm here to work. I'm here to provide you guys with some content that will help you guys be better bettors, and that will help you guys, and hopefully it'll entertain you along the way too. And we'll get better at this together. But let's start breaking down these fights. We've got Daniel Marcos in the curtain jerker. He's a big favorite right now. The pride of Lima, Peru at -250, going up against Aori Qileng +210. The Mongolian murderer, and he is out of fight ready. And then we got fight doesn't go to decision +110 for this fight. Let's start talking about the favorite in this fight, Daniel Marcos, and his advantages. Now, these guys are about the same size. Marcos really doesn't have any advantages on paper unless we just talk about this man's striking. And I mean, this guy does a great job of winning minutes and moments with his striking. Daniel is 7 wins and 0 losses to the decision in his career, and he's 8 wins and 0 losses to the KO. He doesn't wrestle. He doesn't attempt submissions, but he uses his wrestling in reverse to keep fights standing and pick his opponents apart at range. His overall UFC striking metrics are not eye-popping because the Dana White Contender Series fight versus Lewis isn't included, and the Grant fight was a lukewarm performance for Marcos, but this kid is very good at range. Daniel's a Muay Thai striker. He has precise punches, and he has nasty calf kicks and front kicks to the face. He's good in the clinch, and he has excellent step-in knees. Now, Qileng has the experience advantage. This guy was like fighting every other weekend in China for a while. He's got 20 more pro fights. He's got 255 more minutes of pro cage time in almost the same amount of time as a pro. Qileng was fighting 7 to 10 times a year for a while in China. So this dude loves to get in there and scrap as much as possible. He also has the UFC experience advantage over Marcos with 4 more fights and 40 more minutes of octagon time. Aori is a good all-around fighter. He has no major holes in his game, but he's also spectacular nowhere in particular. He's a fighter, a tough dude who's a durable dude. He's game. He hits hard. He wrestles well. He's got solid conditioning and size for the weight class, a ton of experience against a variety of different opponents, and he's comfortable wherever the fight goes. On the feet, he stays pretty busy. He attempts 15.71 distance strikes per minute, and he lands 7.59, both quite a bit above average for the division. He's got really good accuracy at 48% and at distance, but his distance defense at 52%, and allowing a knockdown on 0.94% of the distance strikes he's absorbed. That leaves a lot to be desired. Aori's 8-1 to the KO in his pro career, and he's landed 2 knockdowns in 6 UFC fights, so he does have some power in his own right. He finished Cameron Else with ground and pound. However, it was a beautiful left to the body that dropped him, and he also dropped Johnny Munoz by catching him coming in on a takedown attempt. Qileng has great timing on his counter right hand, a nice check left hook, and his calf kicks are nice. The X factor in this fight is whether Qileng can win minutes in the grappling exchanges. Marcos obviously does his best work at distance striking range using his Muay Thai to win minutes and moments, and primarily uses his grappling in reverse to keep fights standing. But if Qileng can mix in some takedowns and win minutes on the ground and in the clinch, this could wind up being a pretty close fight. Qileng gets 1.64 takedowns per 15 minutes, 47% accuracy, and his grappling efficiency is slightly above average. He has decent takedown defense, a solid get-up game, and he's high percentage when he goes for his own takedowns. So I believe initiating the grappling exchanges early, making Marcos play defense while his arms fill up with blood could be a great way for Qileng to take Marcos away from what he does best, which is strike at distance. So it's an interesting fight to start out the night. Marcos is the better striker here, and he's going to look to keep this fight standing and use his Muay Thai to win minutes and potentially moments. Marcos is undefeated, so he will probably get the nod from the judges should this be remotely close and go to the judges' scorecards like he did against Davy Grant, where he was gifted a split decision in London in front of Davy's home crowd. Qileng, the fight-ready product, also known as the Mongolian murderer, he's bounced around between several weight classes, but he seemed to kind of find a home here at bantamweight. He's 3-3 in the UFC, but his wins over Cameron Else, Jay Perrin, and Johnny Munoz Jr. inspire little confidence. And his only bantamweight loss, he was flatlined by Zahabi in less than a minute. Qileng has power, he's scrappy, and he's a solid wrestler, but he isn't scary anywhere, and I think he's outclassed on the feet in this fight. We also don't have enough evidence to suggest Qileng is capable of winning minutes and moments with his grappling at this level. Marcos has shown good takedown defense in the UFC and on Dana White's Contender Series, stuffing 17 of the 19 takedown attempts against him, only allowing 5 minutes of control time on those 19 attempts. And that's 37 minutes of octagon time on those 19 attempts. So I think Marcos keeps this fight standing and lands the more impactful shots. And I'm going to pick him to win this one by decision. So if we'll go to Tapology here, we're going to go to Marcos and Qileng, and I'm going to pick Daniel Sancora Marcos to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Keep being you, Weezy. That's what the people follow and want to see. Stand-up guy. Appreciate you, Caddy Daddy. That means a lot, man. Angelo likes getting pegged. I did not know that, but I don't have any sources that are suggesting that's the case. So this is on Obnoxious American MILF #1. That's their sources, not mine. Ben Ryder saying you're an awesome guy. Thanks for being so humble. You rock, dude. Appreciate you, Ben. Thank you, man. I got you, Weezy. It was just letting you know. Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm not surprised, because that's why I stopped watching their content, is they were just talking shit about everybody else's product. And, if that's how you want to get up in life, by stepping on other people on your way up the ladder, I don't think that's a good way to do things. Brava saying, hey, I'm curious, why is Aori Qileng listed at 5'7" on all these sites? He was clearly taller than Munoz, who's 5'9", if you look at their fight and face-off. Wacky. Yeah, dude, it's wild how sometimes these guys are allowed to lie about their height for some reason in the UFC, and that like height measurements are changing by 2 or 3 inches between fights. Like somebody could get it that wrong, Marcos by decision. His takedown defense looks solid. I agree with you there. We got Josh saying what's up to the chat and what's up to Weezy. Oi! We got Yippee Kaye saying, Weezy, this tremendous job. Your knowledge, insight, and creativity are fantastic. You're truly a shining star in the MMA community. Believe me, dude, I appreciate that so much. That's very kind of you, my man. We got I Am the True Waller saying, typical fraud, making his font bigger to make it seem like he does more work. Love it, too. Completely unacceptable. Hey, dude, if you are as lazy as I am the true walrus. You probably handed in all of your college and high school papers in big ass font so that you could meet the 5-page requirement. I did that shit all the time. I'd have like 2.5 pages. I'd be like, all right, let's jack up this font and just hand this shit in. Hope we get a D, because D stands for diploma, baby. We got I Am the True Wallace saying, love you, Weez. Love you too, my man. We got minus 250 for Marcos. Another streak getting banked in Vegas. It's a wide fucking line, man. I'm picking Marcos here, but it's wide, dude. I mean, Marcos doesn't win minutes in the grappling. He doesn't have like this next otherworldly power. And, Qileng hits hard in his own right. So, I could see a situation where Qileng maybe doesn't do as much work, or he doesn't land as much as Marcos. He's not as busy, but he lands the bigger shots. You never know, man. It's a fight. We got Spartacus saying, Uncle Weezy, what's up, brother? I tailed some of your bets last week and ended up 5 units. Dude, I love to hear that, because I ended up down 5 units because of my faith in Tom Peterson. So, but otherwise, other than that, it was about a break-even week for me. But yeah, got to turn things around this week. Let's see here. We got TJ says, Teretea. We got David saying, great analysis, funny and entertaining personality. I never follow picks. I listen carefully to the narratives, the metrics presented, and I use my own intuition. There are always clues. Thank you. And that's what I hope I provide for you guys. I mean, why should you guys live and die as if what I say is going to happen for sure? I mean, like Smooth Jimmy Apollo said, you guys, folks, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. we're going to be wrong a lot in this business, you know? So gamble responsibly, exercise good bankroll management, be humble when you're winning, be vigilant by looking at your process in your past picks when you're losing. Please come support my MMA YouTube channel, Spartacus MMA. I will, my man. I'll do that. We got Tehran saying, I like that Pyfer kid. Still only 27 years old, Pyfer. Paku saying, I like Marcos. I've done a ton of tape study for it. Aori not dangerous enough to give Marcos big problems. I wish I caught the Marcos line before it went to shit. Yeah, dude. Some of these, when they start getting steamed, it's so hard to just to jump on board once you know you missed the price. Paku, my man, you follow Uncle Weezy. He's probably my favorite content creator. Appreciate you, Spartacus. And Paku's always in here supporting. A lot of these fighters' heights aren't accurate, for sure. Can't even watch Angelo's boring-ass breakdowns during the month off break. We got Taylor saying, Weezy is my favorite Spartacus, sharpest mind in the game. I appreciate you, man. Which fighter did you watch the most tape on this week, saying Ben? That would be... I watched every single fight of Joe Pyfer. I watched pretty much every fight that I could watch of Darius Flowers. I watched a ton of protest tape. I watched a ton I think all the tape on Oki. I watched Jeremiah Wells' last 6 fights. I watched all the tape on Amil. I mean, the Guskov tape barely took any time at all. I would say it was probably Pyfer or Flowers. But I mean, I watch an absurd amount of tape every goddamn week. I don't have a day job, folks. Like Justin Gaethje is listening at 5'11", but he looks shorter. Yeah, Justin, about 5'10", probably. I get good CLV because I bet a month in advance. Yeah, that's right, man. That's how you do it. That's how you get the CLV. Isn't Marcos a pretty slow starter? I could see that being a problem for Marcos even here. I'm taking the dog. It's a big plus money number on the dog. 420, you the best. What up, Rodolfo? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got JH saying Peterson screwed me. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Back when I still had Bet Online, I killed the CLV, man. Sadly, they shut down my Bet Online account. That's rough, dude. I agree. In my chat, someone asked me who I like to follow on YouTube, and I forgot to mention my man, Uncle Weezy. I was too amazed if people I didn't like. What are the statistics of mine? Is 250 favorites winning? I don't know, man. I don't have betting lines in my fights database. I don't really live bet on fights because I'm usually on the live stream on Pub Sports Radio during fight time, and it's hard to be like announcing the fights and trying to bet at the same time. But let's move on to this next fight because we got a lot of work to do here today, you guys. And this is a fun one, man. Hyder Amil going up against Fernie Garcia. Hyder Amil about a minus 190 favorite and Garcia plus 165 underdog here. Sorry, let me get this on the screen. Maybe go to 100% here. There we go. And we got the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at plus 150. So Hyder said, now Hyder Amil's advantages. He's the bigger dude as Fernie's a natural bantamweight. He's taking this fight on short notice, about 1 week's notice for Fernie Garcia. Hyder's 2 inches taller. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage in this spot. He's also a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox fighter, so that's a statistical advantage on paper. And Hyder's been the better finisher as a pro. He's got a 63% finish rate and 8 pro wins. He's got 1 sub and 4 knockouts. Fernie has only finished 4 of his 10 pro wins, 3 by submission, 1 by knockout. And he is 6-4 to the decision as a pro and 0-3 in the UFC. Hang on just a sec. So Hyder's probably the better minute and moment winner in this fight. And Hyder is a solid all-around fighter, but what sets Hyder Amil apart is the pace that he fights at. He never gives his opponents a chance to breathe. Hyder's not afraid to take himself to dark places in the cage and make his fights about who can keep a terrifying pace and absorb more punishment over the 15 minutes. I absolutely loved watching tape on this guy. His last 3 fights in LFA were all Donnybrooks. Hyder walks forward constantly. He's always pressuring and throwing power shots. He lands big, and he never takes his foot off the gas. Amil has pressure, pace, power, and heart, and I love getting behind fighters with that combination of attributes. And Hyder's striking style is to pressure forward and throw bombs. His boxing's solid. He throws in combination and with power, and he always has his opponents moving laterally or backwards. So it's easier for him to be the guy landing the bigger shots. He's 4 wins and 0 losses to the knockout as a pro, and he can win minutes and moments with his style of being a high-volume pressure fighter who also has power. Hyder doesn't wrestle offensively much, but he proved his takedown defense, get-up game, and counter wrestling is very solid. Outside of the first round of the Gibson fight where he got taken down, controlled, and then gave up his back trying to get back up, this kid has shown the ability to keep fights standing and also defend submissions and try to get back to his feet when his opponent is able to get him down. Really solid defensive grappling displayed by Amil on tape. Now, Fernie Garcia is 2 years younger than Amil. Fernie has the overall and UFC experience advantages with 6 more pro fights, 90 more minutes in the pro cage, and 2 more years as a pro. Fernie also has 3 more UFC fights and 45 more minutes of octagon time as Amil makes his UFC debut on Saturday. Fernie's strength is his boxing. His UFC striking metrics aren't eye-popping by any means, but when you watch him outside the UFC, he definitely prefers to keep fights standing, get in the pocket, and slip and rip. His game is really pretty basic. Use his wrestling in reverse, keep fights standing, and pocket box. Hyder is going to oblige him in that. Fernie loves the counter, and since Hyder will constantly be coming forward and throwing, I think Fernie's going to get the chance to do what he does best, and that's slip and rip in the pocket and try to find the big shot. Fernie has 3 UFC fights, a Dana White's Contender Series fight, and 5 fights in LFA before that. So he's fought the better guys over the course of his career compared to Amil. So this is a tough ask for Fernie Garcia. He's already 0-3 in the UFC. In fact, he hasn't even won a round yet. And now he's taking a fight on 7 days' notice, up a weight class, against a guy who brings a hellacious pace and pressures constantly. Fernie's a durable dude, but the circumstances of the short notice and up a weight class against this particular opponent has me thinking he's going to run into a dick saw on Saturday. I do like how Hyder's pressure and output will set up opportunities for Fernie to counter. But since he only has 1 career win by knockout, I don't know if I can count on him to land a big enough shot to stop the onslaught of offense Amil brings into the cage with him. Hyder is trained by Gilbert Melendez, and he fights with the same relentlessness and has that same tendency to get into fan-friendly wars. I think Hyder's going to break Garcia late 2nd or 3rd round KO here. I think if this kid fights the same way he did in his last 3 LFA fights, I think he's going to open some eyes on Saturday, create a lot of new fans in the process. So Hyder Amil to win by 3rd round knockout is going to be the pick for this fight. So Hyder, the Hurricane Amil, going to be the first person to finish Fernie Garcia, and I think he does it attritionally in round 3 with that crazy pressure, pace, and volume that he brings, combined with some really good power in both hands. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Ben saying, what do you like most about what you do? I really enjoy watching your show. Well, that's a kind of like a long answer, Ben, and we don't have a lot of time here, but like this is something that I went back to school to study statistics, but I went back late in life, and sometimes you think that you're going to be able to kind of write a second chapter for yourself in life and kind of go in a different direction than when you went earlier in life. And I started off as a financial professional. I had a Series 7, 63, 55. I worked on the floor of the Chicago Stock Exchange. I was head trader for a couple of different investment banking firms. But, in September 11th, 2001, the stock exchange that I was working on, all of our stocks started going to zero. We were trading NASDAQ stocks. Shit hit the fan. We all kind of lost our jobs, and then we kind of had to try to find other jobs in the business. And then in 2008, when the financial system broke down and Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, a lot of us lost our jobs again. I went back to school to study math. I thought I would be able to kind of like write this second chapter in my life where I used a combination of my personality and my math skills and organization skills with numbers to kind of create a new path, but nobody wanted to hire me. So I started creating these spreadsheets, getting really good at Excel as a way to kind of like hopefully build skills that would make other people want to hire me. That didn't work out, but by the time I figured out how to build all these baller ass spreadsheets, before I knew it, I had a database of UFC stats. And it's a journey of me trying to take advantage of my strengths as a person, and then be an entrepreneur and go forward, create my own job, not have to ask for anybody's permission to work, be my own boss and create something that I'm proud of, that's all mine, and that people besides me can benefit from and profit from. And that's really what I like most about what I do. Being on screen, talking to you guys, it's all fun, but self-improvement and trying to make the most of the skills that I've been blessed with, because I've got a lot of weaknesses too, so we want to kind of try to funnel our lives towards our strengths. And that's what I enjoy about doing this, is that I feel like it's taking some of the best parts of myself, putting them all into the same endeavor and growing through that, and hopefully creating a good job for myself going forward with those skills. And we got Obnoxious American MILF #1 saying, "Oh, it's true, Weezy. Angelo likes tossing the salad and eat the." Oh, wow. See, once again, not my sources, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot confirm nor deny this, but Obnoxious American MILF #1 bringing you the hot news here. Caddy Daddy saying, "I'm thinking someone gets served here." Yeah, I do too, dude. And it's plus money for violence. The way that Hyder and Amil fights, this is going to be a total Donnybrook. So I think somebody will get served here, man. We got Bob there with the FCK. Tehran saying, "I usually don't watch these Apex cards, but I'm going to watch this Saturday only because of Body Bags Pyfer." Dick Saw, LOL, says Barista. We got Spartacus saying, "Everyone is in here hating on the We Want picks, dude. They're not exactly my cup of tea. And the second they threw shade at my boy Weezy, I said, fuck those things." Is $298 after this card? Yes, it is. February 17th, Topuria versus Volkanovski is the next card. In that exact boat, 36 and looking for a change in life. I haven't lost my job, and it's a good one, but I hate it. Yep, I know. I've been there, man. Oh, shit, I forgot to now mention FanDuel now offers BKFC. Wow. This story has just made me like you even more, Uncle Weezy. Yeah, a little bit of story time with your Uncle Weezy there, man. I appreciate you guys, but we still got a ton of work to do. 71 of you live hanging out in here. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss it out on any of the great content here on the channel. Leave me a comment down below, and please consider joining the Patreon so that you get access to these bullshit garbage spreadsheets that the We Want Picks guys make fun of, because who wants analytics? Who wants statistics? Who wants finely curated information of all the statistical histories of all the fighters in the UFC? Who wants lines transferred to implied probabilities? Who wants benchmarks of finish rates and under 2.5 rates in every division possible? Who wants to know what the combined fighter performance is? Because you could just go to their website for only $10 a month and solve all of life's problems. So you're not going to come to the Patreon. You're not going to get these shitty spreadsheets to support my work, because those guys are 10 times better than me. But if you did, I would appreciate it. You'd be helping out a poor Uncle Weezy here. All right, you guys, let's move on though to the next fight here. And it is going to be Zach Pauga going up against Bogdan Guskov. We've got the line on this fight right now. Zach Pauga, a small favorite at -123. Guskov +103, the underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced to the tits at -325. So let's first start talking about Zach Pauga. He's got the UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights, over 30 more minutes of octagon time in comparison to Guskov. Zach is the more well-rounded fighter with more process to his game. He's athletic. He played in the NFL, and he has a process to the way that he fights. He trains at elevation, so the cardio is there, and he will fight smart and display the ability to fight to his opponent's weaknesses. He's not a particularly exciting fighter, but he is smart and defensively sound. So he's exactly the kind of fighter that can expose a front-loaded fighter with bad cardio like Guskov by weathering the early storm and taking over once there's no more gas left in the tank. Now, Zach's UFC distance striking metrics are solid. He's got a positive 1.43 distance striking differential with way above average 56% accuracy and 62% defense. He's definitely low volume, but he does have some power despite the fact that he only has one career win by knockout and 0 UFC knockdowns. He has a way better minute winner than he is a moment winner, but like most 205ers that used to play in the NFL, he's explosive and he possesses real power if he lands right. Zach is well-rounded, and he's won a lot of minutes with his clinch control in the UFC, mostly in the Jordan Wright fight. Zach out-controls his UFC opponents 31% to 4.5%, winning over 87% of the control time positions in his fights. Zach trains with Curtis Blades, so he has great takedown defense and a good top game when he gets it there. And Zach has fought the much better level of competition as a professional. Now, Bogdan is 4.5 years younger and 1 inch taller than Zach, and he's the opposite of Zach Pauga. He's explosive and powerful. He's got bad conditioning, and he relies entirely on the finish to win fights. Bogdan has got a 100% finish rate and 14 pro wins. Dude's got 2 submissions, 12 knockouts. Of those 14 finish wins, 12 of them came in the very first round. Two came in the first minute and a half of the second round, and one of them did come in the third. So, he's got a lot. I mean, this guy's got a lot of finishes, and they all come under 6.5 minutes, all except for one of them. So this guy's very dangerous and powerful early in fights, so that has to be respected. And Zach does not exactly have what you would call an ironclad chin. So Bogdan is going to be very live in the first half of this fight. He's 12 wins and 1 loss to the knockout as a pro, while Zach Pauga is 1 win and 1 loss to the KO. So obviously Bogdan is the guy with the more terrifying power. Now, this should be a fun fight because Guskov is going to force a war with Pauga. Guskov brings that early aggression, and Pauga isn't known for an ironclad chin. So if Bogdan can stay out of the clinch and find the distance to throw bombs, he could find the chin early against Zach and finish this fight. But if he can't do that, I think Zach has way more ways to win this fight. Zach's conditioning is way better than Guskov's. He fought the much better brand of competition, and he actually has wins over guys with a pulse, which is something we can't say for Guskov. Zach is smart. He can find multiple paths to victory. He's dealt with heavyweight power and wrestling in the Ultimate Fighter House, and he has power of his own on the feet and has also demonstrated the ability to win minutes at distance striking range. I'm going to pick Zach Pauga to win this fight by 3rd round knockout by fighting a smart fight early, wearing on Guskov in the clinch, and staying safe at range, dragging this guy into deep waters, using the conditioning and the high-level experience advantages that he has to find the finish of an overmatched and gassed Guskov late in this fight. So we're going with Zach Pauga, the High Chief, going by KO here over movie star Bogdan Guskov. You can see the picture right there. He's actually credited on IMDb as torturer number 3 in the Hostel sequel, which I believe was called Hostel 2 Electric Boogaloo. I haven't seen it, but yeah, he looks like a guy who tortures people for a living. He's a very terrifying man, but even though he looks that terrifying and he actually has played torturers in torture porn movies, I am going with Zach Pauga. I'm going the other way here, ladies and gentlemen. 3rd round knockout is the pick. What are you hoes saying in the chat here? We got Gray saying, last BKFC card, FanDuel wasn't taking lines away after the fight's finished. Got some free lines. Jesus, dude. Free money. There's nothing better than free money. They suck, man. Angelo's such a boring dude and gloating when he wins 0.1 minutes. They, for some reason, didn't void them. Hey, man, free money's free money, Gray. I smashed all we I'll take every day. We got Zeno Gray in the house saying Guskov is green, but Zach just isn't good in my opinion. I got Bogdan by KO. Yeah, I don't mind a Bogdan by KO, not by KO early in this fight. I think it's a great look. I think it's very, very possible. Dude has got scary power. David Dennett in the room saying Zach was getting stunned by Modestus. Yes, Guskov is definitely very capable of hurting Pauga. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. He's definitely live to win this fight early, Bogdan Guskov. Unlike Modestus, Guskov won't back up and will try to counter in the pocket. Yeah, man. Guskov is not going to take a backward step against Zach. He's going to get in there. He's going to try to take his head off. That's what he does in all of his fights. Sammy in the room saying, "Oi, I'm here live." Remember, I kept telling you Raquel last time, bro. Dude, you were telling me Raquel when I was on Myra Bueno Silva. A lot of people were telling me Pogues when I was on Peterson, and I didn't listen. I didn't listen, okay? I didn't listen, and I paid the goddamn price. Also, I played Magni round 3. Yeah, I played Magni round 3 sub. Oh, God. And, yeah, by the way, has anybody ever seen Luana Carolina and Neil Magny in the same room at the same time? Because not only do they look suspiciously alike, and we know how much Neil Magny likes to fight, so I could see him cosplaying as a Brazilian flyweight in order to get more fights, but he also gets a finish less than 30 seconds left in the third round. What does the Neil Magny clone go out there do in the women's flyweight division? Go and get a finish by knockout, ground and pound in the last 30 seconds of round 3. Coincidence? I think not, ladies and gentlemen. Got those John Anik references. There you go. We got what makes you say that Pauga has high fight IQ? His tape yields big bet, but similarly to Wells, the odds seem too good to be true. So the fight IQ, I would say, was a great fight against Jordan Wright. You take a guy who's front-loaded, who's explosive early in fights, and who has horseshit cardio, and you just put him up against the cage and hold him there for 3 minutes, and you get a win bonus. It's a one in the win column. Did anybody get excited? No. Will anybody care about the next fight? No. But if you got money on Zach Pauga, you're laughing your ass off for 15 straight minutes while he makes that look very easy. So that's a guy who had a game plan that was going to work, did work. He stuck with it. He got himself a very easy win. He was going out there and beating those heavyweights in the house by using his athletic advantages. He wouldn't sit there and voluntarily wrestle with these guys. He made them chase him. He was faster than them. So I think he trains at a good team at Team Elevation, a bunch of cerebral coaches there. I think that he's got good fight IQ, and he's going to take a path. That's why I'm picking him to win this, because he's not going to go out there and swing dicks with this Guskov guy, because that would be dumb. This guy Guskov hits extremely hard. Like I mentioned, 12 wins by knockout, and he tortures dudes in movies. So you don't want to swing dicks with this guy. Put him up against the fence. Fill those arms up with blood. Wear on him. Make him wear your weight, and then put it on him late. We got, I believe you. I also heard he likes softies for breakfast. You guys are killing it. This is like a college lecture. How do people sit around all day listening to an MMA podcast? Then leave, my friend. Nobody's making you be here. I believe that without a doubt. Tara Paku saying Pauga and parlays in a Bogdan round 1 KO hedge. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. We got money. That's why Uncle Weezy the GOAT. There you go. If you look at Zach's record, he isn't that much better than who Bogdan was fighting on the regional scene. I don't know, man. Dude, at least these guys got a pulse. At least he fought Marcus Perez. Dude, Guskov. Here, let's save these picks. And then let's go to the homepage. And we go to the fight card. Dude, look at these wins. They're meaningless. Carlos Eduardo, 20-10. Ali Razea Viafai, an MMA series, 4-1. Abdul El Wahab Saeed, 7-2 in MMA series. Vadim Litvin, 5-2. Nurlan Tokhtabakayev in Brave, 13-3. That's a good record. You know, Sergey Kalinin is now 6-6. Konstantin Andrastitev is 19-15. You know, Ali Khan Magomedov is 6-6. It's a bunch of journeymen. This guy Eduardo is like 50. You know, he retired after that fight. This guy Viafe, I mean, he's got a beautiful head of hair on him, but he's only 4-2, and he's from Iran. You know, these are not guys that are the guys that Pauga was facing in the Tough House, and then he was facing in LFA, which is a reputable, you know, regional scene promotion, not MMA series. So, yeah, I mean, I think Zach's regional scene record, much better, much more impressive wins, in my opinion, than some of these, you know, bums that fight in MMA series. Let's see. We got, is that you, Angel Ho? Yes, thank you. I like that upcoming Mexico card, Ortega versus Rodriguez. Yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure. Finally, someone speaking the truth about Magny. We got his elevation where Sandhagen is. Yes, is so this bet is getting thick. Yeah, that is where Sandhagen trains out of. Sammy Malkin saying that apparently Zach has been training hard in the holidays and wants a breakthrough performance. I thought I have to watch again Goslov with Volkan. Zach was getting KO'd by Muhammad Usman is a bad sign, but Usman's big. You know, Usman's a huge dude, and he did, you know, up until that point, he was looking fine. Let's see, we got just sort of called for Gambler in the stream on Saturday, and I need him in this Wells fight. Yeah, man, I called upon Gambler to turn things around for me, and Gambler gave me that Chuck Radke win. We got, I agree, you are the GOAT, end of discussion, appreciate it. Immaculatan saying Volkan would smoke Pauga too. Yes, of course, I agreed, 100%. And we've got, I remember the last time I studied Guskov, I realized zero floor game was my main note. Yeah, and no conditioning. What are you talking about? You mean you don't want to sit around listening to MMA podcasts next to watching and training? Listening to MMA is literally my favorite thing to do. And we got Ortega Yair too is going to be fire. Yair money line. That's a great fight for sure, dude. All right, let's move on to this next fight. It is Max Payne Griffin at plus 140 going up against Jeremiah Wells at minus 160. We got the fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 130 for this fight. Let me bump this up now that we're back to the regular pages. And let's start talking about Max Griffin. He's going to be the bigger dude. He's 2 inches taller and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Max has the overall and UFC experience advantages over Jeremiah with 13 more pro fights, 185 more minutes of cage time, and almost 3 more years as a pro. Max also has 10 more fights at the UFC level and almost 155 more minutes of octagon time. And he's an extremely durable dude, is Griffin. He's only been finished in one of his 10 pro losses, and that was a late ground and pound stoppage versus Colby Covington in his UFC debut. Max comes to fight. 17 of his 29 pro fights have went to decision, and Max can win minutes wherever the fight goes, as he has plus striking and grappling metrics and great conditioning and durability that he shows off in his 15 UFC fights. Now, Max is a good striker. He's 9 wins and 1 loss to the knockout in his career, and in the UFC, he's got a positive 0.28 distance striking differential with way above average 47% accuracy and solid 61% defense. Excuse me for just a second. Sorry, guys. So Max has 8 UFC knockdowns in 15 fights and 3 wins by way of KO in the UFC. He lands a knockdown on 1.22% of the distance strikes that he lands. The combination of power and durability keeps Max in close fights and leaves him with opportunities to find that big shot while not letting his opponent find one. Max has only been dropped once in 15 UFC fights, so you can count on his chin to hold up, and that's key against a guy with bricks for hands like Jeremiah Wells. Max's chin is going to be tested. Let's see how it holds up. And Max is solid in the grappling exchanges. He's never been submitted in his career, with a 2-0 career record to the submission, and his takedown accuracy and defense are both above average for the division, as is his grappling efficiency rating. And Max has fought the much better brand of competition overall at the UFC level. The combined records of Max's UFC opponents, 124 wins, and 84 losses, while for Wells, it's 27 and 27. So Max is fighting the more experienced guys with the better win-loss records. And Jeremiah Wells' advantages, he's 1 year younger than Max, and he's a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox. So that's an advantage on paper. Jeremiah has the better finish rate overall as a pro, 75% to 58%. And in the UFC, 75% finish rate for Wells compared to 43% for Max. Wells has 4 career wins by submission. He's got 5 wins by knockout, and he's got 3 wins by decision. So he can win moments on the feet with his power and on the mat with his BJJ black belt, but he can also mix in that wrestling in order to win minutes, bank rounds, and win decisions as well. So there are always multiple paths to victory for somebody with as many tools as Wells has. And Jeremiah's striking isn't technical at all. He's inaccurate. He's horrible defensively, but please don't let this dude hit you. Everything he throws is with serious power, and he winds up on everything. So if he lands on you, you're going to have a bad time. Wells has 2 knockdowns in the UFC and 2 UFC wins by way of KO, and his distance knockdown percentage is an eye-popping 6.25%. But so is his distance knockdown allowed percentage, also 6.25%. So Wells can get cracked as well, and he's fought some powerful guys thus far. And Wells does his best work, though, in the grappling exchanges. He's clearly more comfortable there, as 80% of his octagon time is spent in control time positions, and he dominates there. He gets 3.89 takedowns per 15 minutes on 8.95 attempts. His accuracy at 43.5% is above average, and he's got 100% takedown defense on 3 attempts again. So it's a small sample size, but this guy's very efficient. He's out controlling his opponent 74% to 5.49%, winning over 93% of the control time positions his fights have been in. And he actively hunts for submissions, attempting 1.17 submissions per 15 minutes with a 4-win and 1-loss career record to the sub. Wells will probably try to grapple here to win minutes, as Griffin is the more technical striker at range by a long shot. And he does have a ton of power in his own right as well. So I love this fight. 2 veterans that are nearing the end of their career, but who are also still fighting in top form, looking as dangerous as ever. Wells was on a 6-fight winning streak going into the Carlston-Harris fight. He won the first 2 rounds of that fight decisively, only absorbing 1 significant strike over the first 2 rounds and accumulating just under 9 minutes of control time. Then he got caught in Carlston's signature choke, the Anaconda, and he got subbed in the 3rd round. If it weren't for that moment that he lost against Carlston, getting caught in that choke, he's on a 7-fight winning streak right now. Griffin is taller, longer. He's more experienced overall and in the UFC. His striking is much better, and he's fought the better brand of competition. Wells is an unusual combination of explosive moment winner and grinding minute winner, all wrapped up into the same fighter. Wells swings hammers on the feet. He uses the first strike attempt to kind of find the range, but it's the second and the third punches of the combination you need to watch out for. Wells is predictable. He's slow, and his punches come from way too wide. But what he does do well is throw with insane power and use those big swings to either land on you or get in on your hips so he could take you down, use that crushing top control, that ground and pound, and that BJJ black belt to win minutes and hunt for submissions. Max has a lot of advantages on paper here, but I do think Wells is the better minute and moment winner here due to the fact that if Wells doesn't like how the striking is going, he's just going to choose to clinch up and grind on Max, and I think he can win minutes there against him. Max is crazy durable. He's a very good fighter in his own right, so I think this one goes the full 15 minutes, and I'm going to pick Jeremiah Wells to win this fight by decision. So let me go back to the picks here. Make sure that these saved. They did. And right now we are picking Jeremiah Wells to win this fight by decision. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let's see. I'm loving this chat. Weezy Army incoming. Max betting Yair. I think Ortega is on the downhill side of his career. Max Payne is my guy. We're friends. Instagram, 100% biased, but I don't see Wells winning neither sticking nor the wrestling. Give me Max KO, round 1, 2, or decision. All right. I got Barcelos and Felipe dos Santos in some parlays. Let me see. Asking what your thoughts are on Ortega versus Yair. Man, I'd love to bet Yair today. When is my next show? I will definitely be tuning in. Your content is top shelf. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time for Ask Weezy, when you can ask me questions in the chat and take advantage of all the stats that I have here in my database. Let's see here. Max is getting up there and looking veteranish in there, but I mean, is he really getting beat by a dude who has to leap into range like a kangaroo? Thinking UFC vet lesson in this one. Yeah, Max is the more experienced at the UFC level for sure. 2.5 units on Holloway plus 210. Okay. Let me see. Bob Spikermans. And okay, next fight, you guys. We have got Devin Clark at minus 220. Big favorite going up against Marcin Prachnio at plus 185. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Plus money at plus 130 for this fight. So let's first start talking about Devin Brown Bear Clark here. Now, Devin is almost 2 years younger than Marcin, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. He's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 80 more minutes of pro cage time and 8 more fights at the UFC level. Over 100 more minutes of octagon time as well does Devin Clark have. Devin has the better UFC power numbers. He's landing a knockdown on 1.17% of the distance strikes that he lands, compared to 0.29% for Prachnio. And that knockdown that Prachnio had came against Ike Villanueva. Devin throws with more power and purpose. The fact that he wrestles so much opens up opportunities to land big shots, and Prachnio has been dropped 3 times in 8 UFC fights and finished in 4 of his 5 UFC losses. So there will be moment-winning potential for Devin Clark here. And Clark's a high-volume, low-efficiency wrestler. He's attempting almost 7 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's getting 2.35 of them. He spends 62% of his UFC octagon time in control time positions, and he outcontrols his opponents 33% to 28%, winning almost 54% of the control time positions in his fights. And Prachnio has 54% takedown defense. He allows 2.01 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's getting controlled almost 22% of his UFC cage time. The opportunities will be there for Clark to slow this fight down, cage push, and wear on Prachnio, not letting him stay busy scoring points at distance. Clark is built to execute that kind of game plan, and Prachnio has been notoriously bad at stopping it. Marcin Prachnio is 3 inches taller than Devin Clark. Marcin has been the better finisher as a pro, and he has a 75% career finish rate, 1 submission and 11 knockouts, compared to a 36% career finish rate for Clark. And Prachnio has finished 1 of his 3 UFC wins, while Clark has only finished 1 of 8. I think this fight probably goes to decision, but Marcin has definitely been the more dangerous finisher as a professional. Marcin will be the busier and more technical range kickboxer. He stays busy at range, attempting 3.72 more distance strikes per minute than his opponents do, and he has a very impressive positive 2.91 distance striking differential. Marcin lands at an impressive 53%, and he has average 58.5% defense. He definitely prefers to stay at range, while Devin Clark prefers to grind. Marcin has only been taken down 1 time on 4 attempts against in his wins, allowing 5 seconds of control time. But in his losses, Prachnio has been taken down 9 times on 18 attempts against, and he's been controlled 42% of the octagon time in those fights. So if Marcin keeps this at range, he's got a way better chance to win. And Marcin's UFC strength to schedule metrics are just slightly better than Devin's, but it's very close. So I'm leaning to the Clark side here. I love his relentless grinding style, especially against an opponent like Prachnio that doesn't deal well with wrestlers. On the feet, Marcin will stay busier and land more. He has better kicks, and he's way more accurate. But Devin is the more powerful striker, and Marcin will have the added challenge at distance of having to worry about Devin's wrestling. So I like Devin to win in the minutes of this fight on the way to a decision win. And I also think Devin has most of the finishing equity here due to the fact that Prachnio lacks real power at this level. So the pick is going to be Devin Brown Bear Clark to win this fight by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Yeah, I know. Minus 220 in this economy for Devin Clark is just a little bit crazy, isn't it, Caddy Daddy? Wells is good lines. You guys are talking about Max. This is my ass shaving prediction. Devin Clark for the win, says Prince of Mischief. We're going to be getting to that once we break down the rest of these fights. I think you are. I think that if there's a finish, it's going to be on that Devin Clark side. But Devin Clark has only finished one UFC win, and it came against a crossover star who's an actual bodybuilder who does MMA on the weekends. His name is William Knight. And Devin Clark beat that guy at heavyweight and finished him in round number 3. But other than that, yeah, this guy is not really much of a finisher. Yes, William Knight. And we've got 3 units on the man of the forest, Devin Clark, the Brown Bears. My man Daz Files here. So let's see. My guy MMA Jesus says he's got Devin Clark via submission here. That could be an interesting look. Devin Clark has even attempted a submission in the UFC. He's attempting 0.08 submissions per 15 minutes. So I think I think that might be, yeah, that's one. He's attempted 1 submission in 16 fights. So Clark by submission, I mean, not the best bet because, I mean, Prachnio has been submitted once in the UFC, though. It was the Petrosyan sub the last time out. So, yeah, man, I think that this fight's going to be on the ground. And that's when you get the big numbers, when you bet on things that haven't happened before, but the stylistic components of the fight point you towards that direction. Yeah, hard to trust Clark, but the tools are there, and Marcin is kind of ass. Clark's the pick. Yup. My guy Kiwi Brew in the room saying, Churro, what's up, dude? I think the fight comes down to who can win the clinch exchanges. And if Prachnio somehow gets a finish, it's going to be a kick to the body. Yes. Otherwise, Clark by decision, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm going Clark by decision as well. Yeah, you got it, dude. Anytime, MMA Jesus. Always good to have you hanging out in here. We got to keep moving. We got so much work to do. Loma, Lookboonmee, minus 272 in this economy, going up against Bruna, Brasil at plus 232 on the underdog side. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 150 for this fight. Okay, let's first start talking, after I get the stats up here for you guys, about the very handsome Loma Lookboonmee. Now, Loma is going to be 2 years younger than Bruna Brasil. She has the UFC experience advantage. So she has 5 more fights and over 70 more minutes of octagon time. Loma's got a Muay Thai striking base. She's great at distance striking range, positive 0.96 distance striking differential, way above average 46% accuracy, really solid 62% defense. She's neither landed nor absorbed a knockdown, and she's unusually low volume at range, but she's very efficient. Great kicks to all targets on the body. She throws with power and purpose, and her clinch and ground striking numbers are damn good. She lands 4.51 clinch and ground strikes per minute with a positive 2.23 clinch and ground strike differential. The striking is the best part of Loma's game, whether she's at range, in the clinch, or on the mat. And Loma's going to have the UFC strength of schedule advantage here. Her metrics overall and in her wins are better than Bruna's. The common opponent is Denise Gomez. Loma won a unanimous decision over her, and Bruna Brasil was flatlined by Gomez in the second round of a fight she was already getting her ass shaved in up to that point. So I'd say Loma's the more well-tested fighter by quite a bit in this spot. And then Bruna Brasil, though, is going to be 5 inches taller and have a 4-inch reach advantage over Loma. And she's been the more effective finisher as a pro. Brasil has got a 55% finish rate. For Loma, 25%. And Bruna's a solid all-around fighter. She's got great size and length for the division. She has plus conditioning and athleticism. Her kickboxing is good. She can wrestle and grapple. So she has multiple paths to victory, as evidenced by her 4 wins by decision, 3 wins by knockout, and 2 wins by submission. She's at a great up-and-coming camp in Fighting Nerds, so she's starting to put it all together like butt cheeks, coming off a solid decision win in hostile territory against the debuting Shauna Bannon last time out after a long trip in front of a hostile crowd. So this should be a close fight, in my opinion. Loma has the high-level experience advantage. She's fought the better brand of competition, and her Muay Thai is excellent at distance and especially in the clinch. But her money line right now is minus 277. So that's bananas for somebody who doesn't finish fights or even land knockdowns. This fight most likely sees the scorecards, and Loma's very sloppy on the mat, and she's giving up a ton of height and reach to Brasil. I think this fight plays out close. I like the Brasil plus 3.5 points handicap at plus money. It's plus 115. So if this fight goes to decision and she wins 1 round on all 3 judges' scorecards, she covers that bet. Loma by split decision is plus 900, and I think that this fight is going to be close. I think that's a good look. That's also a very intriguing line. I'm going to pick Loma to win this fight by decision because I do favor her at distance and in the clinch, but I don't think she runs a clinic on Brasil. I could see Bruna winning a round or this fight going to split. So no way I'm laying juice on Loma here. Also, I like the fight goes to decision because even though Brasil has been knocked out in all 3 of her pro losses, one of those came 10 years ago. And that was in her pro debut, and it was against Ariane Carnelosi, who's a legitimate fighter. And that fight took place when Bruna was 20 years old and brand new to MMA. And the other regional scene knockout loss was a serious knee injury she suffered against Jessica Del Boni back in 2017. So I think the narratives about Brasil being fragile because she got knocked out by Denise Gomez are a bit overblown. So I do think Loma by decision at plus 140 is a solid look this week, and that's going to be my official pick. So we're going to go, look at how handsome Loma Lookboonmee is. We're going to pick her to win this fight by decision, but I like that Bruna Brasil plus 3.5 points handicap at plus money. I think that this is going to be a close fight, and I think it sees the scorecards. Wow, 25 comments. My God, you guys are killing me. Let's see here. David, we got Ben. If you could meet any fighter in person and have lunch with them, who would it be? Man, that's a good question. Ask me that tomorrow night on Ask Weezy, Ben. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but I'll think about that. Remdog in the room with the Dolphin Love. Let's go. We got Kiwi Brew saying Daz Files. We got Sammy saying, I think this card will have a draw. It hasn't been one for 3 or 4 events now. Loma Laka via KO or sub in this spot, says MMA Jesus. We got Caddy Daddy saying, damn right, Weezy, another one, minus 275 in this economy. God damn, man, it's hard. Not in this economy, baby. I think the line is warranted. Bruna looked bad last time. I thought she won all 3 rounds. And don't forget, that was in England. She went from Brazil all the way to England fighting Shauna Bannon. She kind of went into that clinch a lot. She won some minutes on the ground. I thought she did a pretty good job. I thought she put together a good performance to get a decision win, stack that first UFC win, so important to do, especially in front of a hostile crowd. I thought she won all 3 rounds. So I don't think it was versus Gomez, she looked horrible. But that was the debut, and sometimes those debuts are sometimes their worst performances. Bruna looked terrible in her win against Bannon as well. I disagree. I thought she looked pretty good there. I thought she fought a smart fight. Bannon is no Loma. No, agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt, man. No doubt. I hate betting women's favorites, but I had to take the minus 200 on Loma. I wouldn't play Brasil at this price, but I get it. We're still taking Loma at minus 275. Oh, you had the Loma finish. She got that submission. Yes. Loma's heating up. She looks good, dude. She's getting very good. Elise Reed's a dog, but her ground game is absolutely god-awful. She's been improving her game 100%. Yes, sir. And she's getting a lot of takedowns and mixing in that grappling. I think she's just sloppy on the mat. Bruna will look good at distance, but God, she throws strikes as often as St. Preux. Dude, yes. And you're so right about that. Dude, look at this 6.66 distance strike attempts per minute. That's 6.55 less than the divisional average. So the output from Bruna Brasil at distance is ridiculously low. My annual huge bet on women's MMA, because I don't understand how it could go the other way. Then it does. 10 units on Loma. I even bet Loma versus Loopy. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so Prince of Mischief, this is just you add up the 3 judges' scorecards for each fighter. So let's say Loma wins this fight 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. Loma gets 30-30-30. Brasil gets 27-27, 27. Loma wins by 9. So she covers the 3.5 point spread. So you just add up all 3 judges. If the fight goes to decision, you add up all 3 judges' scorecards, and then whoever has more points, you have to cover by you have to win by more than 4 or lose by less than 3 or less than 4. So that's how that works. Yeah, something about her. Loma by MMA math. The MMA math favors her. Yeah. Lookboonmee KO by calf kicks. I can tell her first leg experience how she hits. Yes. Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad choice. She reminds me of Yan Xiaonan. 72 people smash the like. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Weezy, what's up? I really like Ige, Pyfer, and Clark this week. I'm on Ige. I'm on Pyfer. I'm on Clark. So I'm right there with you, my man. All right. Let's keep working here. Damir Hadzovic versus Bolaji Oki is off. Bolaji Oki is now fighting somebody named Timothy Cuamba. I don't know anything about Timothy Cuamba, but I am going to read you what I wrote about Bolaji Oki. We got Bolaji's been active lately. He's fought 4 times in the last couple of years. The youth combined with the potential. Well, I'm talking about him compared to Hadzovic here. Bolaji's tape has really looked really good so far. He's explosive and athletic. Let's see. He mixes in the wrestling to win minutes on the ground. He's big and long for the weight class. He flashes big power, and he's still only 28 years old. This guy passes the eye test, and I love the fact that I've seen him wrestle quite a bit in his fights. Bolaji has nasty striking. What he does particularly well is land big shots to the body. He finished the Josimar Ferreira fight with a knee to the liver after stopping a takedown attempt. He destroyed Assis Silva, who's a terrible fighter, to be fair, but he beat him with a beautiful left hook to the body that folded him like a lawn chair. And on Dana White's Contender Series, he hurt Dylan Salvador, a guy with a high-level kickboxing background, bad with a left hook to the body. And then he finished him shortly after that with another nasty left hook to the liver. He landed a ton of great shots on the feet against Malikian, and he also showed off a great chin in that fight, and he absolutely floored the venerable Hiram Rodriguez with a straight right, then finished with a guillotine. Bolaji stands behind a nice jab at range. He's got a really nice check left hook, and the body work that he throws is very impressive. He can counter and he can go first. He's fast and he's powerful, and he's demonstrated the ability to mix in his wrestling to win minutes on the regional scene. But I don't know shit about Timothy Cuamba. I'm picking Oki, and I'm picking him by KO in round 1 just for the sake of me putting a pick out there. And for those of you in the Patreon, after I tape Twilight Timothy Cuamba, who, by the way, just fought Friday. So he's taken this fight against Oki after he just fought Friday, up 2 weight classes at 170 pounds. This one's at 155. It's a huge ask for Timothy Cuamba. And this guy, Bolaji Oki, the Zulu warrior, looks like a very, very good prospect. So I'm picking him to win this fight against who? When I saw Timothy Cuamba, that was what I thought. I thought, who? But here we are. So I don't know. This kid Oki is a great looking prospect. He's explosive. He's well-rounded. He's fast. He's powerful. So it's going to be a really fun situation to watch this kid fight. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, it is going to be a banger. I think it's going to be a fun one. Two DWCS fighters here. Cuamba's a tough man. It's going to be a good fight. He did get a new opponent, and it is Timothy Cuamba. Yep. All right, but let's move on to the next fight, as it is going to be Trevin Giles, Officer Trevin Giles at plus 220, going up against Carlos Prates at minus 260. We got the fight doesn't go to decision here. Juice to the tits at minus 325. Let's get these stats up here on the screen for you guys. And we're going to first start talking about Officer Trevin Giles, who's the slightly more experienced overall with about 35 more minutes of pro cage time in 2 years less as a pro fighter. He's been the slightly more active fighter overall, but where he has meaningful advantage is in his UFC experience level. Trevin has 12 more UFC fights and 130 more minutes of octagon time, as Carlos Prates will be making his UFC debut on Saturday. Trevin's a well-rounded, well-tested mixed martial artist. He's fought top-notch competition not only in the UFC, but he beat Brendan Allen, Ryan Spann, and Ike Villanueva on the regional scene as well. Trevin has finished 3 of his 7 UFC wins inside the distance, all of them by KO, and he's a very impressive 5 wins and 0 losses in his career to the decision as a professional. So he can just as easily win minutes as he can win moments. Trevin has 5 pro wins by submission, 6 by knockout, and 5 by decision. So he's a well-rounded, well-tested, and he's got multiple paths to victory. He's a tough test for any debuting fighter. Trevin's UFC striking metrics aren't eye-popping, but they are definitely above average. He's got a positive 0.66 distance striking differential. He's got way above average 48% accuracy and 63% defense. He's landed 3 knockdowns and has 3 UFC wins by way of KO. Trevin is extremely low volume, which is maddening, but he has a very fast and precise jab that he stays behind, and his 1.12% distance knockdown percentage is above average for the division. Trevin has absorbed as many knockdowns as he's landed, so his fights can come down to who lands the bigger strikes first, as 5 of Giles' 12 UFC fights have ended by KO. Now, Giles is a pretty solid all-around grappling game. At first, you glance and you see he's 0 wins and 3 losses to the submission in his UFC career, but when you see it was GM3 and Gabriel Bonfim who submitted him, you can forgive him for those, and the submission loss to Cummings was a result of Cummings dropping Giles with a huge left and then jumping on a guillotine. Trevin's got above average 55% takedown accuracy. He's got above average 71% takedown defense. He's winning 46% of the control time positions in his fights, despite only attempting 32% of the total takedowns in his fights. We haven't seen much of Prates' grappling game on tape, so Trevin might be able to find ways to win minutes with his clinch game and his wrestling in this particular matchup. And Trevin has faced a much better level of competition compared to Prates. He's got 12 fights at the UFC level, and the combined records of his opponents are 52 wins and 31 losses. He's been in there with Duplessis, Dolidze, GM3, Gabriel Bonfim, Michael Morales, Brendan Allen, Ryan Spann, Zach Cummings, while Carlos Prates' best career win is against Mitch Ramirez or Eduardo Ramon. There's a massive strength to schedule gap here. Carlos Prates, though, is 1 year younger. He's 1 inch taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage over Giles. Even though he's the younger fighter by 1 year, Carlos actually has 2 more pro fights, and he's been a pro for 2 more years than Giles has. Younger and more experience is a nice combination of on-paper advantages to have. Prates has been the better finisher as a professional. He's got an 89% finish rate in 17 pro wins. He's got 3 submissions and 12 knockouts. Carlos is 12-2 to the KO. So the distance striking is definitely where he's most dangerous and where he does his best work. But Prates is also a BJJ black belt who trains out of a good camp at Fighting Nerds. So he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. Now, Prates makes his money at distance striking range. He's a former Muay Thai champion, and he does an excellent job of using his unusual height and reach for the welterweight division to his advantage when he's at striking range. Prates is a sniper. He's not particularly high volume, but he's extremely tough to close the distance against because of his sniper-like accuracy on his straight left, along with his ability to maintain a safe range with his long-range kicks and step-in knees. His power is crazy. His head kicks and step-in knees finish fights regularly, and his straight left violently separates hoes from their consciousness. He's even knocked out a guy with his jab. Spending time at distance striking range with Carlos Prates is very bad for your health, and he has a wide variety of dangerous weapons that he uses well while he's there. This is a very tough test for a UFC debut. Carlos is experienced, though, and his recent form of 6 straight wins by KO is definitely impressive and worthy of a UFC contract. Now, he's facing a well-rounded and well-tested fighter in Trevin Giles in his debut, and that speaks to how highly the UFC matchmakers think of Carlos Prates' ability. Trevin is going to need to close the distance and make this fight dirty, because while this fight is at range, Prates is going to be the far more dangerous fighter. Trevin doesn't pressure nearly enough nor throw enough volume to give Carlos any problems, and closing the distance against this giant presents a whole other set of challenges that he did not deal with against a similar opponent in Michael Morales. I don't really know what to expect from Carlos's grappling game, but with his super long limbs, I could see Carlos being a problem there as well. I love the upside and the dynamic striking game of Prates. It's important to note that these guys have been finished as professionals in 10 of their 11 combined losses. So neither one of these guys is known for their durability, and I think they're both very dangerous fighters in their own right. I'm going to pick Carlos Prates to win this fight by second round knockout, but picking a debuting fighter against someone as dangerous and experienced and well-tested as Trevin Giles is always a dangerous thing to do. So I'm going to tread lightly here, but I am picking Carlos Prates because I think he's a phenomenal striker, and I'm picking him to win this one by second round KO. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yeah, DFS Brady saying this Saturday there'll be an officer down. I love that. We got David saying Cuamba fought and won on a unanimous decision on Dana White's Contender Series in August, and his metrics were awful. 43 for 126, but no idea what he looked like. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at it after the show and see what this kid's tape is like, because I like Bolaji. He fought Mateo Vogel. Oh, that's why. Well, if he fought Mateo Vogel, you're not going to land any strikes against Mateo Vogel. Mateo Vogel is a stud, and he is a problem. They call him the tick, and he's just like a tick. He just never stops wrestling. He sticks to you like glue, and you can't get him off of you. So that had to be an ugly fight. And if he beat Mateo Vogel, he's a pretty damn good fighter. I think Oki gets the finish on him, though. David saying, I can't stand Giles' style. Feel Prates will be able to set the pace, and Giles lowering his hands as the fight wanes will hurt him badly. He keeps his hands way too low, especially against somebody with the head kicks that Prates has. If Giles had half an IQ, I'd feel better about his chances. I agree, man. We got Lone Wolf in the room. What's up, man? Officer Down, send help. Let's go. Victor De Jesus saying, Weezy, I've been busy at work and haven't been able to chat at all. But yeah, Angelo is a lame bitch, and I wouldn't be surprised if the pegging rumors are true. Oh, he says Victor. Zeno Gray's got Prates, but I'm afraid Trevin could pull a Charles Johnson. You never know, man. You never know. Prates KO, but damn, I hate those debuting dates. I know. I do too. I got burned on one of them last week in Thomas Peterson. So you got to be real careful with these debuting guys. And Bolaji, Carlos Prates, Hyder, Amil. I'm picking all of them to win, but they're debuting, DWCS guys. So, yeah, man, you got to tread lightly on those fights. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next one. This one's going to be a Donnybrook. We got Rodolfo Vieira going up against Armen Petrosyan. Rodolfo, a minus 120 favorite. Petrosyan plus 100 is the dog. Fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 200 for this fight. So we've already talked about this fight. I'll go over it real quick. Rodolfo's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got a 100% finish rate as a pro. He's very durable. He might gas out, but he won't quit, and he's very difficult to drop. I've seen this guy eat flush head kicks to the face like flapjacks. Rodolfo is a 4-time BJJ world champion, 7-time Abu Dhabi world pro champion, 2-time Pan American and European champion, as well as ADCC submission grappling world champion. Dude's landed 13 takedowns and yielded 0. He outcontrols his opponents 38% to 6%, winning over 86% of the control time positions his fights are in. He has a good blast double leg takedown, and once he gets on top, his pressure is fantastic, and he's so dangerous when he's in top position because of his ability to get the arm triangle and finish fights with that choke. Petrosyan has 35.7% takedown defense in the UFC on 14 attempts against. So the door is going to be open for Vieira to wrestle and get into top position here versus the kickboxer. Now, Armen is 1 year younger and 3 inches taller than Rodolfo, and Petrosyan is just as decorative a striker as Vieira is as a grappler here. It's without a doubt Petrosyan's base for MMA is like K1 kickboxing, karate, Muay Thai champion, all 3 of those disciplines. Armen also has a world Muay Thai championship to his credit, and he was Fight Night's global 205-pound champion before losing the title to Hassan Yousefi and then getting his shot on Dana White's Contender Series. Armen is 6-1 to the KO in his pro career, and he has excellent distance striking metrics in the UFC. He's boasting a positive 3.51 distance striking differential. He's got over 50% accuracy, 58% defense, and he's landing a whopping 7.83 distance strikes per minute. That's 3.67 more than the divisional average. Armen still hasn't knocked anyone out or even dropped anyone in the UFC, so the power really hasn't translated yet, but it's definitely there. Armen is technical, he's fast, he mixes up his targets and weapons really well, and his kicks to the body are so dangerous. Armen is going to have a huge advantage at distance striking range in this matchup, and I like Petrosyan's strength of schedule in the UFC better than Vieira's. The combined record of Armen's opponents is 11 wins and 5 losses, while for Rodolfo, it's 16 wins and 18 losses. And the records of the guys Rodolfo has beaten is 7-14, while for Armen, it's 7-5. So I just like the strength of schedule metrics much better for Petrosyan here. So this is your classic striker versus grappler matchup. If Armen keeps this fight on the feet, he cruises and probably even gets a late finish. If Rodolfo gets takedowns and advances to dominant position, he probably gets a submission. I like Petrosyan's size, conditioning, kickboxing, and strength of schedule. And on the Vieira side, I like the wrestling and the grappling and the finish up side he brings to this fight. The line is a pick'em, and that makes sense to me as both of these fighters have obvious paths to victory. Petrosyan has avoided the submission against top-notch grapplers like Bohayo and Rodriguez, so I feel like he can do the same here if he gives Rodolfo enough resistance in the grappling game. Then he can absolutely gas out Rodolfo and finish him late with body shots like Chris Curtis almost did. I'm going to pick, but that's if he keeps the fight standing, and I do like that Rodolfo is a pretty relentless wrestler. He attempts 14.25 takedowns per 15 minutes. So because of his commitment to the wrestling and Armen's inability to be able to stop it, I think that Vieira is going to get into enough dominant positions here to either finish the fight or to win enough minutes on the scorecards to win a decision here. So I am going to pick Rodolfo Vieira to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it by second round submission. All right. And it's a fight that we've already talked about. So let's move on to this next one because this is a very interesting fight. We got Michael the Menace Johnson going up against Darrius Beast Mode Flowers. Right now, Johnson is a small favorite at -123. Beast Mode plus 103 on the comeback. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits here at -325. So let's first start talking about Michael the Menace Johnson here, as he is 1 inch taller and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage over Darrius, in addition to being the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Michael has massive overall and UFC experience advantages. He's got 21 more pro fights, 275 more minutes of pro cage time, and 9 more years as a pro fighter. Michael also has 20 more fights at the UFC level since the year 2013 and over 240 more minutes of octagon time. That's over 4 more hours of octagon time compared to Darrius Flowers. And Johnson's going to have a serious conditioning advantage here. Flowers is explosive early, but he slows down late and he starts spitting out his mouthpiece, usually sometimes late in the first round. Michael needs to weather the early storm and survive the blast attacks from Flowers early. And if he could do that, he'll be able to take this fight over in the later rounds. I like Michael striking so much more than I like Flowers. Michael, over a massive sample size, has got a positive 1.29 distance striking differential, 38% accuracy, over 62% defense, 7 knockdowns in 21 UFC fights since 2013, landing a knockdown on 0.66% of the distance strikes that he lands. And he has 3 of his 9 UFC wins coming by way of KO. Michael stays long when he strikes. He has great footwork, moves well laterally, and stays busy. He has a nice jab, and he does a great job of countering in the pocket. Flowers is a low-volume striker who's slow and clunky, but his offense comes in short blasts. He's very dangerous when he goes into beast mode and blasts forward with 7-shot power combinations. But outside of those combos, Michael will be picking him apart from range, and his footwork is going to help him deal with the early pressure from Flowers. Flowers also has really bad conditioning. So after the first round, I see Michael striking really taking over. Over 81% of Michael's octagon time takes place at distance striking range, and that's because he does a great job of using his wrestling in reverse in order to keep fights standing where he's most comfortable. Michael has over 80% takedown defense on 68 attempts against, and he's been controlled less than 13% of his UFC cage time. Flowers is a very good offensive wrestler, but he's going to have his work cut out for him trying to get a guy who has the footwork and takedown defense of Johnson down to the mat. Since the year of 2013, only 4 of Johnson's 21 opponents were successful landing more than 1 takedown against him. That was Reza Madadi in the first fight that I have from him in 2013. It was Khabib Nurmagomedov, Andre Fili, and Clay Guida that did that. That got more than 1 takedown against him. And Michael has fought the much better UFC competition, and it isn't even close. This is a big step down in competition for Johnson and a big step up for Flowers. Flowers stepped up to take the fight, the Jake Matthews fight, on short notice, and he clearly wasn't ready for that spot. And I see this as being a similar challenge against a fighter of Johnson's caliber. Now, Darrius Flowers is 8 years younger than Michael Johnson. He's got the better career finish numbers than Johnson, albeit against a much lower level of competition. He's got serious power in his hands. He's a mauling wrestler who can also get ground and pound and slam KOs. And Darrius is explosive and powerful early in fights. And Michael Johnson is coming off a scary knockout loss to Diego Ferreira. So Darrius is absolutely live to find an early finish with his skill set. And his striking isn't technical or of the minute-winning variety, but he has serious power. He's extremely low volume at range, but when he does choose to attack, he goes in bursts, throwing 7 or 8 punch combinations. If he lands, you're in trouble, but if he doesn't, he goes back to range, resets, and does nothing until he has enough energy for his next blast. And everything that he throws is with 100% power in it and with the worst of intentions. But this dude can really wrestle. He has the ability to throw his opponents around, even at middleweight. But this is a lightweight fight, so I could see Darrius having some success with his wrestling like Madadi, like Khabib, like Fili, like Guida did. Michael has great takedown defense, but Flowers is a beast. So if he gets in on Michael's hips, he could go for a very unpleasant ride. I mean, Darrius Flowers is the kind of guy where if it was legal to do this in the UFC, I think he'd be the first guy to pick somebody up and throw them out of the cage. That's how explosive he is when he gets in on your hips. But Michael Johnson's got great footwork at distance, and I think it's going to be difficult for Flowers to find good takedown entries against him. So this is an interesting matchup to make. You're taking a 28-fight UFC veteran who's shared the octagon with Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and Habib Nurmagomedov, to name a few, and put him in there against a 12-6 regional scene journeyman who's been finished in all 6 of those losses and fought most of his career at middleweight. Michael's taller, he's longer, he's a southpaw, he's way more experienced overall and at the UFC level. He's the way better boxer, and that isn't even close. And his 81% takedown defense against the who's who of the lightweight division is incredibly impressive, not to mention the massive strength of schedule and conditioning differences between these two guys. Look, Flowers is a very dangerous dude. He has heavy hands and he's explosive throwing his strikes and on his takedown entries. He's a natural athlete with natural power, but that's about it when it comes to his skill set. He's 1 win and 5 losses to the submission in his pro career. His conditioning is not where it needs to be. He's cutting down to 155 pounds for the first time in his career, and he's fighting by far the most experienced and toughest opponent of his career thus far. This is a huge ask for Darrius Flowers, and while I'm obviously well aware that Darrius could flatline Michael early or get a huge takedown or slam early in the fight, the longer this fight goes, the more Johnson's experience, conditioning, and boxing advantage are going to mean, and the opportunity for Flowers to find moments will expire pretty quickly, especially with that nasty weight cut. I like Michael Johnson to finish this fight by second round KO here and turn in a dominant performance against the inexperienced Flowers, who has way too many red flags to ignore. So I'm picking Michael the Menace Johnson to win this fight by KO in round number 2. All right. Let's see. Armen is a tough bastard. He can be taken down, but dude has a stamina and he jumps up like a fraud. Can't be held. No way. I mean, it's hard to hold him down. The line on Rodolfo has been shifting on DK, been bouncing back and forth between minus 125 and minus 115. Michael Johnson is such a hot and cold fighter. I'll only bet him as a dog. Something weird always happens. Yeah. I bet Petrosyan big, says Bob. You think Flowers can catch him? I think it's very unlikely, but I mean, it's MMA. And the way that Flowers swings, he just swings with really bad intentions. So it could be the third or fourth punch in a blast combo that catches Mike and drops him. And if he does that, he's going to smell blood and try to finish. But I think Johnson's too much for him. Michael's 37 and got recently KO'd by 39-year-old Diego Ferreira. Dude, Ferreira's got serious power. Ferreira's striking is excellent. I'm telling you, Flowers all the way, KO most likely. Yeah, I don't see it, but I get why people are betting him. I mean, Michael Johnson's a very inconsistent fighter. He's got 17 losses. I mean, like this guy, he's lost a lot of fights, and people don't have a lot of faith in him. But I mean, like Darrius Flowers' skill set is not UFC level. He's kind of like, he reminds me of Bob Sapp. He'll be hell unleashed for like 3 minutes, but if he doesn't get the job done, he'll look for the door and he will get finished. So I don't know. I can't get tomorrow's ask though. Would you do me a favor and please talk some Vulcan? I can't do it right now, dude. I'm an hour and 53 in, and I've still got 4 more fights, and I haven't taped the fight yet, so I can't talk about it. I think the line is silly. I like Volkanovski at the current number, but we're gonna have to find out. Johnson KO dirty. Yeah, that was a nasty KO. I swear this is Flowers' first cut to lightweight. I get the chin issues, but it was Emmett and CDF ain't a chump. Flowers has an uppercut that could do it, but MJ has every aspect of MMA covered here except for chin. Yeah, and even Flowers is a way bigger quitter than Michael Johnson will ever be. If Flowers looks good on the scale, I think it's a lock. Well, that's something we got to see. Flowers is dangerous. His Valentine Woodburn levels of dangerous. Like maybe, but I mean, come on. Yeah. MJ is one of my faves, and I can't pick him here. I'm picking him, man. Where's Gregor Gillespie? He's on a lake right now somewhere fishing. Is he still on that gay pride tour? I don't know. I don't think so. He's just on a lake fishing, Gregor. He's taking care of business out there. Next fight, you guys. Brad Tavares at plus 195 going up against Hobo Cop Rodriguez at minus 230. We got the fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 120. Brad Tavares has the overall and the UFC experience advantages in this spot. Let me just get a quick drink here. He's got 9 more pro fights, 190 more minutes of pro cage time, and over 7 more years as a pro fighter. Brad also has the UFC experience advantage with 11 more fights since 2013 and 180 more minutes of octagon time. Brad is an accomplished minute winner at the UFC level. He has a process to his game and it works. He's a kickboxer with excellent takedown defense who prefers to use his wrestling in reverse to keep fights standing. Over 73% of Brad's UFC cage time is spent at distance striking range. And while he's there, over a massive sample size of distance striking data, Brad has a positive 0.64 distance striking differential with above average 41.6% accuracy and 61.4% defense. He only has 3 UFC knockdowns in 18 UFC fights since 2013 and only 1 UFC win by way of KO. So Brad isn't a finisher at this level, but he is a patient and efficient striker and a grappler who can last the full 15 minutes because he's durable and he can keep fights close because he's technical and he's defensively responsible. And Brad is an efficient grappler. He has 81% takedown defense on 90 attempts against since 2013, and he allows only 16.63% control time to his opponents, despite the fact that his opponents attempt 5.81 takedowns per 15 against him. Brad attempts only 26% of the takedowns in his fights and gets only 22% of the total takedowns, but he still manages to win over 37% of the control time positions in his fights. So the efficiency rating over the long haul is well above average for Brad Tavares. And Brad has fought and beaten the more experienced level of UFC competition with the better win-loss records compared to Gregory. The combined UFC records of the guys Brad beat are 84 wins and 59 losses, while for Gregory, it's 16 wins and 17 losses. So Brad is definitely the guy with the more impressive resume. Now, Gregory is going to be 4 years younger, we think, 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over Brad. Gregory's a finisher, definitely more of a killer-be-killed fighter compared to the minute-winning style that Brad Tavares brings. Gregory has the better finish rate compared to Brad overall, 85% for Gregory, 35% for Brad. And in the UFC, Gregory is finishing 80% of his wins, while Brad Tavares, since 2013, has only finished 9% of his wins. The finish only on prop on Gregory Rodriguez right now is minus 260, and frankly, it should be minus 500. Gregory has nice striking. He has a ton of power, and he stays busy throwing above average volume. Greg has a negative 0.1 distance striking differential with excellent 53% accuracy, but below average 53.5% defense. Greg has 4 UFC knockdowns with a 1.55% distance knockdown percentage, and 4 of his 5 UFC wins come by way of KO. So you know this dude has the power in both hands to end you on the feet. And Greg is a plus grappler. He's a BJJ world champion and an Abu Dhabi champion at the purple belt level. He doesn't grapple as much as he should at the UFC level, but when he does, he's demonstrated the ability to win minutes. Greg is getting 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes on 4.73 attempts. His 53% takedown accuracy and 100% takedown defense are both excellent, and he wins 72% of the control time positions in his fights, out-controlling his opponents 17.4% to 6.7%. Greg will be the more dangerous and active grappler here, but it's hard to win minutes against Tavares in the grappling exchanges. So this is a great test for Hobo Cop. He's younger, he's taller, he's longer, he's more powerful on the feet. He's the better wrestler and the more dangerous submission grappler. Brad has the overall and UFC experience advantages, and he's fought and beaten the better brand of UFC competition. The biggest thing I worry about with Robo is getting clipped. And since Tavares hasn't knocked anyone out since 2018, I feel pretty good about the advantages Rodriguez has in this matchup. I see this fight taking place on the feet where Rodriguez will be faster, longer, more powerful, and throw more volume. I also think he can mix in the grappling to win a minute here and there, and maybe even threaten a submission or two. There's a lot of miles on Tavares' engine at the age of 36, and he's been knocked out in 4 of his 7 UFC losses. So I see Gregory walking Brad down, landing the bigger shots, and getting him out of there by knockout in the second round. So I'm going to pick Brad Tavares. No, Gregory Hobo Cop Rodriguez to win this fight by KO in round number 2. All right. Let's get Weezy. Scottsdale, Arizona is watching you. I'm right here. Gregor relapsed, meth on the wet. Oh, no, really? Come on, no. Camden Gleason saying KO. I like Hobo Cop. He pressures, he has power and more volume. Also, all of Brad's KO losses are odd. Bruno early stoppage, Edmund round 1 head kick, and only Whitaker's was clean. Yeah. I want to parlay Hobo Cop, but I know he's not reliable. Going to do it anyway just because Tavares looks so poor against Weidman. Agreed. Rodriguez plus 850 by sub. If Hobo somehow gets Tavares down, would love a little piece of that number. Just a steep price for somebody with all those credentials. Tavares never been subbed. Yeah. Tavares' takedown defense is so good. Yes, absolutely it is. Yes, with you on this. Gregory all the way. I'm right there, man. Got money on the under. I don't hate that. I think Gregory can finish this one. I doubt it goes to the ground, but Hobo Cop has such a massive edge if it does get there. Yeah, I think he's better everywhere here. He just is less experienced, and he's fought the worst brand of competition. Gregor hasn't posted since 2023. I'm not surprised. That guy doesn't want to fight anymore. His fighting just isn't for everybody, and Gregor's been probably in a wrestling room since he was 10 years old. So now that he's in his 30s, I think he probably wants to enjoy his life a little bit. Next fight, though, very interesting one here. We got Robert Brycek making his UFC debut at minus 195, taking on a short notice replacement for Albert Duraev here. It's going to be Ihor Peterier, the duelist, at plus 170. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Juice to the tits, minus 800 for this fight. So we don't have any stats on Brycek yet, but he's been a pro for 3 years longer, and he has about 35 more minutes of pro cage time in comparison to Ihor. And Robert is a former welterweight who moved up to 185, and he looks absolutely massive there. He's been saying his prayers and taking his vitamins, my friends. His back is as wide as a Mack truck, and he hits just about as hard. Robert's on a 5-fight win streak right now. All 5 of those wins coming by violent first-round knockout. Robert is very light on his feet. He bounces up and down on his toes like a karate fighter, and he explodes into range with his jab and a beautiful, powerful straight right that comes right down the pipe. He moves and feints a lot when he's at distance, and his strikes cover a lot of ground in a short period of time, and they are thrown with power and purpose. His left hook to the head and to the body are also very dangerous weapons for Brycek. This is a very dangerous man when he's at distance striking range, especially in the very first round, which is where 10 of his 12 career finishes come. Now, Ihor Peterier is 6 years younger, and he's 3 inches taller than Robert Brycek. He's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup, and he's been a 205er for almost all of his pro career, and he's taking this fight on 1 week's notice at 185 pounds. So Ihor on the scale is going to be information we're going to need to properly handicap this fight. Ihor has the UFC experience advantage. He's got 4 more fights, and he's got 24 more minutes of octagon time, as Brycek will be making his UFC debut on Saturday. And Ihor's got a Sambo background, and he's trained MMA since he was a teenager. He's got 24 pro fights at the age of 27, and he's already a 4-fight UFC veteran right now. He's 6 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his career, while Robert Brycek is 1-1. So while we know Brycek is a scary dude on the feet, we don't know much about his ground game, and his record shows us that submissions isn't how he looks to finish fights, as Rob's last win by submission came in his pro debut back in 2011 against the 1-5 Lucas Christ. So Ihor should have the grappling advantage in this fight. Now, Ihor's distance striking metrics have been good in the UFC thus far. He's got a positive 1.63 distance striking differential. He's got 50% accuracy and 56.5% defense. His volume is above average. He lands 5.89 distance strikes per minute, and he has 2 UFC knockdowns while absorbing 1. He's landed a knockdown on 2.3% of the distance strikes that he's landed, and his only UFC win over Shogun Rua came by way of knockout. And his most recent performance versus Rodolfo Bellato probably should have been stopped by the ref and been his second knockout win. Ihor's got power, and he can find big fight-ending strikes off the break, in scrambles, and at distance. With Britchek being a former welterweight and Ihor fighting at mostly 205 pounds, it's going to be interesting to see which one of these guys has more power. And Ihor has fought the tougher dudes overall due to his Dana White Contender Series fight and 4 UFC fights, even though I'd say Britchek's regional scene competition has been tougher than Ihor's regional scene competition. But this fight definitely promises to be a bit of a ding-dong. The under 1.5 rounds is juiced to the tits at minus 260. So obviously the bookies expect somebody to get served and served quickly in this one. Now, Britchek has won his last 5 fights by first-round KO, and Ihor hasn't had a fight see the scorecards since 2019. We need to be aware that Ihor took this fight on 1 week's notice and is also taking on the challenge of making his cut down to 185, the first time that he's done that since March of 2021. We have to take that into account, as Britchek is such a powerful and dangerous opponent early in fights, and Ihor's been knocked out in 4 of his 5 pro losses. And now Ihor is definitely the younger, taller, longer, and more experienced guy here who has faced the tougher level of competition. He's also demonstrated the ability to finish fights by submission, which we haven't seen from Britchek as a pro. This is a fun fight to research and tape, but I don't want to have much of an opinion on who wins until I see Ihor on the scale at 185 and determine how the weight cut on short notice will affect his performance. And I won't be able to determine that until I see how he looks on the scales. So for now, and this is for now, I'm going to pick Britchek to win this one by first round KO with very little confidence, but I might change that pick if Ihor looks good on the scales due to all the advantages he has on paper in this matchup, being the bigger and more well-rounded and well-tested dude. But 1 week's notice, and when you watch the recent tape on Britchek, right, because he was fighting at 185 for a while, he was winning by decision most of his fights. He wasn't really a finisher. Then he cuts down to 170, and I mean he gets the shit beaten out of him by, let me find it. I mean, I know Kaique Brito beat 7 shades of shit out of him, but it was the Leandro Silva just beat the piss out of this dude at 170. He lost to Frasinek, Brito, and Silva at 170. His only win was against his Jadrejczyk. And then he comes back, and I think he loses this fight to Zednik Polivka by decision. And then it's KO win, 17 seconds. KO win, 154. KO win, 125. KO win, 241. KO win, 55 seconds. And all of a sudden, his body type looks completely different. And it looks like he could punch a hole through a brick wall. Now, there are a lot of very cynical cappers out there. Cynical people who would say that the only reason that Robert Britchek got that big was because he took performance-enhancing drugs. Now, your Uncle Weezy isn't that cynical. I know how Hulk Hogan did it when he used to talk about the 24-inch pythons. It was taking his vitamins and saying his prayers, and I do believe that Robert Britchek is doing the same thing. But he is strong, and he is wide, and he is thick, and he looks like the poster boy for testosterone. So I'm going to pick Britchek to win this one by first round KO. But like I said, I'm picking that because Peteria does look like shit sometimes. I think he looked great against Bellato, but taking the fight on 1 week's notice and making your cut down to 185 is a combination of attributes that I don't want to see, especially when he's as hittable as he has been in the past. So I'm picking Bricek here with very little confidence, but I think the under 1.5 rounds is probably a parlay piece this week. I don't see this fight getting out of the first round. All right. Let's see here. I looked into this. Ihor is a very good dog. He's beat people like this before. Bricek, good hammer, not a good nail. That's very true. Check the tapes. Fight to end in round 1 or 2, probably the best bet. No killer instinct. Hobo Cop money line. Yep. LOL Gregor's name is Voles. I get Ihor mixed up with Prachnio. We got Local Man Shakes Fist saying Ihor is bad. Or I'm sorry, that Local Man Shakes Fist said I got Ihor mixed up with Prachnio, and David Dennett saying Ihor is bad, but he'll throw some leg kicks, which really seem to bother Bricek. And Bricek is relatively one-dimensional. Ihor has outlanded all his opponents except Shogun, which is mostly leg kicks. Yes. I will sprinkle Ihor Paterable KO1 for Kiwi Brew. I think that is going to be his path. Couch is going to go nuts for Ihor in his breakdown. I can feel it. Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I doubt we're seeing clinch or ground exchanges. Ihor may be able to do the thing from afar, but can't get me to lay a dime. Yeah, I hear you, man. 83 of you guys here hanging out live. We only got 2 more fights to break down. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Leave me a comment. And please consider joining the Patreon so you can get access to all these fantastic stats that will help you make better gambling decisions. Let's first talk about Dan Ige, 50K, going up against Andre Fili. The line on this fight right now is Dan Ige is a minus 163 favorite. Andre Fili plus 143. Fight doesn't go to decision at plus 125 for this fight. So Dan is going to be 1 year younger than Andre Fili. He's going to definitely have the durability advantage here, as he's never been finished in 24 pro fights and 7 losses, while Fili's been finished in 5 of his 10 pro losses, twice by submission and 3 times by knockout. Ige is a very good all-around fighter. He's got 5 pro wins by submission, 5 by knockout, and 7 by decision. He's been in the deep end of the UFC's featherweight division since he's been here, fighting opponents with a combined 78 wins and 56 loss UFC record. So Dan has got big power on the feet. He's got solid accuracy and defense at distance. He's a BJJ black belt with a wrestling background who can grapple with the best of them. I'd say Dan's best attribute is his power and that big right hand that can end your night early. Now, Dan's UFC strength of schedule is slightly better than Andre's overall and in his UFC wins. Now, Andre Fili's advantage is he's going to be the bigger featherweight here. He's 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over Dan Ige. And Andre has the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 10 more pro fights, 50 more minutes of pro cage time, in 4.5 more years as a pro fighter. And Andre also has 6 more UFC fights and 30 more minutes of octagon time since the year 2013. And Andre is also a very dangerous striker. He has 6 UFC knockdowns in 21 fights, and 4 of his 11 UFC wins come by way of knockout. He also has a 0.8% distance knockdown percentage, and he uses that length well. So Ige finding ways to close the distance could be tricky for him here. This is a great co-main event. Both of these guys are all-action fighters who love a good scrap. On the Ige side, I like the well-rounded skill set, the big power that he throws with on the feet, the durability, and the strength of schedule advantage. Now, on the Fili side, you have a 4-inch height and a 3-inch reach advantage. You got the overall and UFC experience advantages, and he might be the better minute winner in the striking exchanges due to the volume and distance management that he fights with. These guys are well matched. They spend about the same amount of time at distance striking range on average. They're both slightly below average when it comes to grappling efficiency. They have similar strength to schedule metrics, but I'm leaning with Ige's power and durability edges that he has here. Ige has mostly struggled with grapplers over his career. Ige has allowed 18 takedowns in his 6 losses, but only 4 in his 9 wins. He gets controlled 24% of the cage time in his losses, but only 16% in his wins. So if Ige can keep fights standing where he's more durable and powerful than his opponents, and I think both are true in this matchup. I think he's more powerful than Fili, and I definitely know that he's more durable than Fili. That's when he does his best work and he has his best chance to win, is when he has those advantages and he can keep the fight on the feet. So I'm going to be picking Dan Ige to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it by second round knockout. So I'm going with Dan 50K Ige here by KO in round number 2. And I have a big bet on this fight. I have a 3-unit bet on Dan Ige's finish only prop. It was available at minus 200 on the open. It's minus 250 now. Dan Ige's never been finished. The guy's ability to be able to recover when he gets dropped is fantastic. And he is as tough and has as much heart as anybody in the division. So I think the Dan Ige finish only prop here is a slam dunk bet due to his durability combined with the power differential that he has over Andre Fili. I think he just hits harder than this dude. And if they get in that pocket and swing dicks, it's probably Fili who drops first because Ige hits harder and he's more durable. So second round KO for Dan Ige is the pick. We got Prince of Mischief saying, smash the like, hit subscribe, share the video. Appreciate you, my man. Remdog saying if Fili makes the mistakes he made against Nathaniel Wood, Ige will finish him, which I'm betting happens. And that line on finish only, Ige is chef's kiss. Dope fight, says David Dennett. Yeah, I love that one. 3 units at minus 200, trying to win 1.5 units. It might void, but if it doesn't void, I think I'm cashing it. All right, you guys, that brings us to the main event. We've got Joe Body Bags Pyfer, the favorite, at minus 268, going up against Jack the Joker Hermansson at plus 228. We got the fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 350 for this fight. And this was the poll that I put out. I asked this fight, Prates Giles, Johnson Flowers, or Pauga Guskov. Which one are you max betting for fight doesn't go to decision? And people said it was this fight. They are seeing violence in this 5-round contest between Pyfer and Hermansson. So let me get these stats up here on the screen for you guys. And we're going to start talking about Jack Hermansson here and the advantages that he has. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage over Body Bags Pyfer. Jack has the overall and the UFC experience advantages with 17 more pro fights, 225 more minutes of pro cage time, and almost 8 more years as a pro fighter. Jack also has the UFC experience advantage with 13 more pro fights, 13 more UFC fights, and over 155 more minutes of octagon time than Pyfer has. Jack has done a good job of staying busy at distance striking range and being a consistent minute winner while there. He attempts 14.23 distance strikes per minute. That's 3.52 more per minute than his opponents do. And he's got a positive 1.03 distance striking differential. He lands 5.51 distance strikes per minute. That's 1.35 more than the divisional average. Jack has been dropped 3 times and been knocked out 3 times in the UFC. So while he's a solid minute winner, his tendency to lose moments is concerning against an opponent that hits as hard as Body Bags Pyfer does. Now, Jack does his best working in the grappling exchanges. He stays busy, attempting 5.61 takedowns per 15 minutes. He gets 1.66 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he outcontrols his opponents 18.5% to 12%, winning over 60% of the control time positions in his fights. Jack has 6 wins and 2 losses to the submission in his career, and he has solid wrestling with elite ground and pound. Now, Jack is 8-3 in the UFC when he gets a takedown, and he's 2-3 when he doesn't. So Jack has finished 6 of his 10 UFC wins inside the distance. He's got 3 wins by submission. 2 of them are by guillotine and 1 is by heel hook. And all 3 of his knockout wins come by way of ground and pound. So keeping Jack Hermansson off of you is very important if you want to stay safe. Jack has absolutely toyed with elite grapplers like Gerald Mearshart, Talis Latis, Jacare Sosa, and David Branch. So don't voluntarily grapple with Jack Hermansson. And Jack definitely has the strength to schedule advantage in this fight. Pyfer only has 3 UFC fights so far, while Hermansson has not only had 16 UFC fights, but he's fought and beaten high-level guys so often that he's been scheduled for 5 rounds 4 different times in the UFC. Jack has fought the more experienced guys with the better win-loss ratios overall, and in his wins as well. So this is definitely a couple of rungs up the ladder in terms of competition for Body Bags Pyfer. Now, Pyfer is going to be 8 years younger. This dude is still only 27 years old, everybody. So Joe Pyfer is going to be making improvements at this age, and he is absolutely in his physical prime. And he's also going to have a 1-inch height advantage over Hermansson. And even though both of these guys are top-notch finishers, it's Body Bags who has the better finish rate overall compared to Hermansson. 92% for Body Bags, 74% for Hermansson. Joe has serious power on the feet with 8 pro wins coming by way of knockout, and he also has 3 wins by way of submission and has shown the ability to wrestle offensively and win minutes with his ground and pound and moments with his submission game. Body Bags is a very dangerous fighter wherever the fight goes. And Joe is a very dangerous striker. He's low volume and his accuracy is below average, but this dude hits so hard that he slows down his opponent's ability to attack because they were scared of being countered. Joe has 2 UFC wins by way of knockout, and he's landing a knockdown on 2.33% of the distance strikes that he lands at. So pretty much everything Joe throws is meant to end your night, and in particular, his overhand right is so scary. He dropped Mearshart and Diaz, though, with left hooks. So it's imperative to tread lightly and choose carefully when to engage in the pocket with this guy because he has heavy hands and there is serious power in both of them. Now, Joe's not just a powerful striker. He's also a very talented grappler. When you watch the early tape on Pyfer, you see that his base is grappling, and it was where he was most comfortable. He has plus wrestling, and once he gets on top, he does a good job of settling into dominant positions and maintaining control while landing ground and pound, while waiting for his opportunity to take the back and sink in the body triangle. In Joe's very small UFC sample size, he averages 3.16 takedowns per 15 minutes, while winning over 91% of the control time positions in his fights. Joe has 3 wins and 1 loss to the submission as a pro, and he trains with a great crew of grapplers. And Joe has been active outside of the UFC in grappling competitions. He's even earned recent wins over Gerald Mearshart and Eric Anders in Fury Pro Grappling. So this is the next rung up the ladder to the top 10 for Body Bags Pyfer, as Hermansson is currently ranked 10th in the middleweight division. Joe is still only 27 years old. He finishes fights. He has an inspiring story, and the fans love him. Joe's 8 years younger, 1 inch taller, and he has a massive power differential in his favor at distance striking range. Jack Hermansson has massive high-level experience and strength of schedule advantages that comes along with those extra 8 years of age. He has a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's much more mobile and defensively responsible on the feet. Jack's grappling game is definitely on par with Joe's, if not slightly better, and we have more evidence of Jack having success on the mat against guys that are at least as dangerous as Joe is on the mat. I'm interested to see how Pyfer deals with Jack's constant movement at distance striking range. And if Jack doesn't stand in the pocket with Joe and instead dances on the outside, does that make Joe much less dangerous due to the grappling and clinch games being very similar? I can't wait to find out. Prospect against veteran. Powerful, moment-winning striking against a well-balanced and experienced grappler. This one is going to be a barn burner. I love the youth and power that Joe possesses, and I think Jack's movement at distance, along with his tricky and persistent grappling attack, make him a difficult opponent for a guy with less than 15 minutes of octagon time. This line is wide to me. I think if I were betting Pyfer, I'd prefer to bet on him to win in rounds 1, 2, or 3 when he's fresh and his power is still there, because Joe has only been to a decision once in his entire career, and he's never seen the championship rounds. while Hermansson has been scheduled for 5 rounds 4 different times in the UFC, and he's went the full 25 minutes 3 different times in the UFC. I'm going to pick Body Bags Pyfer to win this fight by second round knockout. I can't ignore the youth and power differential this guy has on the feet, and I think the grappling exchanges are going to be competitive. That being said, it will be interesting to see how Pyfer adjusts if Jack stays safe at range, never stops moving laterally, and dictates when the grappling exchanges happen. If he does that and fights cautious, he could drag Pyfer into deep waters where we know Jack can swim at the highest levels, while Pyfer has not seen a third round as a pro since the year 2018. I think there is value on Jack's money line here, and something tells me as the week goes on that Joe's money line will get steamed by the Juice Boys, and Jack Hermansson's money line might get to something bettable. But until then, I'm going to stay on the sidelines, and I'm going to pick Joe Bodybags Pyfer to win this fight by second round knockout. Round 2. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got watching Pyfer's pre-UFC fights, I thought this guy is 1 round of cardio. But after seeing him pick his shots more carefully, I now believe he has 2.5 rounds of solid cardio. Yeah, and he's going to have to keep building on that and keep getting better. But he is so explosive and he swings so hard that it's hard to balance 15 minutes of cardio with constant explosion and fight finishing actions. So he's going to have to work on that balance. Yes, Freak saying, you sound amazing. Great research. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. We've got David Dennett saying, if this fight goes longer than 1.5 rounds, I find it difficult to see how Pyfer covers minus 268. Jack hasn't fought recently, but he's still solid and he doesn't feel like he's fading. And he's still good, man. King Bicky saying Jack throws too many pestering leg kicks. He's going to get knocked for that. Yeah, you can get absolutely countered. Hey, Weezy, question about your last fight. When you say finish only prop, is that the same as inside distance decision, no action? Yes, it is the exact same thing. It just means if the fight goes to decision, you get your money back, and the bet only cashes or doesn't cash if there's a finish in the fight. So yes, finish only means the same thing as distance equals no action. Sammy Malcolm saying, why are there so many old guys in this card? UFC doing a spring cleaning. It's what they call the it's like a spring cleaning. It's like a contractual obligation card. You get a bunch of the Contender Series guys against the old grizzled veterans that are sometimes like a bit of gatekeepers. We got Hermansson sub or Pyfer KO. Hit that thumbs up, guys, says Victor. Subscribe and like, y'all. No one kills the always better than Weezy. Appreciate the show, Unc. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate you, Silky B. We've got 3 more things to do. I'm going to give you the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. I'm going to give you Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, and then I'm going to share my tracked bets so far with you guys. There are only 2 of them. Only 2 of them so far, but I am planning on putting together a couple of parlays here. There's a couple of juice spots that I like, and I'm just waiting for some of these props to open on sites that aren't bet online. But let's start talking here about the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. I'm going to give you a plus money number here, something that I think will cash for us and give us a little bit of value. And what I'm going to go with this week is going to be that Bruna Brasil plus 3.5 points handicap at plus 115 right now on Bet Online Sportsbook. If we go, yes. Bruna Brasil versus Loma Lookboonmee, and you go down here to Bruna plus 3.5 points. It's plus 115. I think this fight is going to be close, and I think that Bruna can win minutes on the mat in this fight. In addition, she's a very good kickboxer in her own right, and she's 4 inches taller and going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. So I like her to keep it close in the striking exchanges. I think if she can stay out of the clinch with Loma, she will be keeping it close at distance, and she can mix in some wrestling to win some minutes on the ground, keep this fight real close. I think she can even come out the other end with a win, but I am still picking Loma to win by decision. So the dog pick this week is going to be Bruna Brasil plus 3.5 points handicap at plus money. I think this is cashing, and this is going to be a track bet for me this week. And that brings us to the next order of business, which is going to be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who is going to win and win violently this week? Who is going to leave you saying, oh, shit, that was nasty. That was a big win. We got to get on track. Week 1 this year, I picked Manel Kopp. He didn't even make it to the cage. Week 2 this year, I picked Mayra Bueno Silva. She had a great first round, almost got the rear naked choke, and then got 7 shades of shit beaten out of her for the next 4 rounds. And we were 0-1-1. Then last week, Thomas the Train Peterson looked more like a Tonka truck and basically couldn't get Jamal Pogues down. We are 0-2-1 on the ass shaving of the week. I had it narrowed down to 4 guys. I chose Bolaji Oki to shave the ass of Damir Hadzovic. And then Hadzovic got word that he was going to be the ass shaving of the week this week. And then he lost his visa. So now I have to repick the ass shaving of the week, which was just going to be Bolaji Oki to shave the ass of Damir Hadzovic. Now I've got it narrowed down to 3 names, my friends. Carlos Prates to shave the ass of Trevin Giles. I've got another potential ass shaving here as Gregory Rodriguez to shave the ass of Brad Tavares. And the third option is an option that's much closer to even money. And it's a strong read that I have, but it's also extremely risky. I do not want to lose 3 ass shavings of a week in a row. But do I put my balls in the wheelbarrow and pick Michael Johnson to shave the ass of somebody I just don't think is all that good all around in Darius Flowers, somebody very one-dimensional, somebody with a lot of questions with durability, with conditioning, with submission grappling, with high-level experience, making the first cut down to 155 pounds in his entire career when he was fighting at 185, 205, and sometimes even heavyweight just because he didn't feel like cutting the weight. So Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is either going to be Gregory Rodriguez, Carlos Prates, or Michael Johnson. I'm wondering what you guys in the chat are thinking. We got the dog is Max, says Prince of Michigan. I like Max this week, but I'm picking Jeremiah Wells to win this fight, and I might even bet Jeremiah Wells to win by decision if I can get the right number, because I feel like I can trust Max's durability, but I think Wells can land the bigger shots on the feet, and I think he can out-wrestle Max Griffin because he's so strong in that clinch. He can just drag you down, and once he gets people down, his top pressure is incredible. Ass shaving already ready? Yeah, it's almost ready. We're almost ready. We got ass shaving prediction is Devin Clark. I'm not going with Clark. Way off. Don't pick MJ. Not worth it, says David Dennett. And I'm with you, my man. Not Johnson. Too unreliable, regardless of experience. And that is why we are going with Gregory Rodriguez to shave the ass of Brad Tavares. You know, we get to that point. We do know that Father Time is undefeated. Tavares still fighting at a high level. You know, I mean, just 3 fights ago, he went 3 full rounds with Dricus du Plessis and won a round. He beats Chris Weidman, but is unable to finish him, and he only had 1 leg. And he gets knocked out by Bruno Silva. And I really do like how aggressive Rodriguez is on the feet. I think that we're going to see him mix in some wrestling here, but he hits way harder. He throws a lot more, and he's just in a lot better recent form. And he's been fighting guys, you know, the fact that he could go 3 rounds with Armen Petrosyan at distance and perform as well as he did leads me to believe that there's not going to be nearly as much danger coming back his way from Brad Tavares. This feels like a safe pick this week to get us our first ass shaving of the week win of the year. So I'm going with Gregory Rodriguez to shave the ass of Brad Tavares as Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week. And which brings us to the last order of business, which is just this week's We saw the 5.1 unit loss last week, and we're bouncing back this week with a 1.5 unit bet, which was supposed to be a parlay, so I would never lay juice on Michael Johnson. Oki Hadzovic off. Now I have laid juice on Michael Johnson. Straight bet, 1.5 units at something like minus 125-ish, I think. So that's a bet that was supposed to be parlayed with Bolaji Oki. And then we've got the Ige finish. Scorecards equals no action, 3 units. 3-unit bet at minus 150. I'm sorry. 3-unit bet at minus 200 on that one. Looking to win 1.5 units. I will be adding Bruna Brasil plus 3.5 points handicap as soon as it opens on Bet Rivers to see where I can get the better price. I'm looking at Jeremiah Wells by decision. I'm looking at Hyder Amil to win in round 3. I'm looking at parlaying the under 1.5 rounds for Britchek versus Petrosyan. I'm looking at parlaying the fight doesn't go to decision for Michael Johnson versus Darrius Flowers. And I'm looking to parlay the over 2.5 rounds for Loma Lookboonmee versus Bruna Brasil. That's it, you guys. 2 hours, 35 minutes. We broke down 14 fights. I researched 16 this week because we've had cancellations and shit. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me for the long haul today. We got Prince of Mischief saying pick RoboCop, and he says yes. What's wrong with Ige, says Kiwi Brew, is that I think it's going to be a kind of a close fight. I'm picking Ige to win, and I'm gonna cash big if he does shave Fili's ass. But I don't think Fili's that much worse than Ige anywhere, even in the power. But it's just the durability is what sets them apart. And because of that, I'm leaning Ige. I think he wins the fight. But I think that Gregory Rodriguez makes it look nastier when he knocks out Brad Tavares. Prince of Mischief saying thank you, Weezy. Victor de Jesus saying have a good night, Weezy, in chat. I appreciate you guys. We've had more people in here than in recent memory due to the fact that football is finally ending. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to all you guys that's coming up this weekend. Enjoy the game. Enjoy watching these fights. Let's stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 86. You can check me out right back here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time for Ask Weezy. I'll have my stats all loaded up for you guys, and we can talk prize picks, underdogs, money lines, props, figure out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks together. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock Central Time, I'll be on Pub Sports Radio doing the DFS show with my man Brady, Gordo, and Monk. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment. And please consider joining this Patreon that the guys at We Want Picks seem to hate so much. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you tomorrow.